And hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Social Media for Activism. We're excited that you're here, and it's going to be an amazing training. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce Leadership Institute for just a second, or I'm going to introduce Leadership Institute for just a second, introduce myself just real briefly, and then we're going to hop right into the meat and potatoes. There's a lot to cover here, and we've got a lot of ground to take, which is awesome. So let's go ahead and start with, first and foremost, Leadership Institute. So for those of us that may be joining us for the very first time, welcome. For those of us that are joining us for the millionth time, welcome back. We'd love to have you. And we are the Leadership Institute. And we often get called a lot of names, as you can see on the screen, but luckily they're pretty great names, that's for sure. And Leadership Institute, it's our mission to increase the number and effectiveness of conservative activists in the public policy process. We were founded in 1979 by our founder and current president, Morton Blackwell. And essentially what we do is we teach conservatives and people on the right the nuts and bolts of how to succeed in the public policy process. And we've got some amazing graduates among our ranks, that's for sure. All the way at the top is Vice President Mike Pence, who's participated in our youth leadership school. We've had Mitch McConnell, and one of my more favorite ones right now is actually Congressman Dan Crenshaw of Texas, took our future candidate school before running for Congress, and it seems to be going pretty well so far. In fact, he just launched that re-election video. I'm sure most of us saw that. It was pretty awesome, right? His new campaign ad. Oh my gosh, that's pretty awesome stuff. That's for sure. But yeah, I mean, they're Leadership Institute graduates, and then we've got over 220,000 graduates across the country and across the world. And we want that number to increase as much as possible, that's for sure. But one unique thing that makes that number much more impressive is you realize how we count our numbers and how we count people as trained. And the way we do that is you have to complete at least, at minimum, 3 hours, which is the total length of this course, 3 hours of training to be considered a Leadership Institute graduate. So we're not a flash in the pan. We're not going to speak in front of people for 45 minutes and then count them all as trained, but rather it takes 3 consecutive hours to be counted as a Leadership Institute graduate. And if you stay for the full duration of this course, you will absolutely be among our ranks. And like I said earlier, they are very prestigious ones, that is for sure. And our IRS overlords classify us as a 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan educational organization, which basically means that we don't support or oppose any candidates or legislation. And I just say no politicians and no policy, just effectiveness, how to take your message and spread it on, in this instance, the World Wide Web, but be as effective as possible using political technology. And of course, we have an opens admissions policy. So while we try and train conservatives and those on the right, we train everyone. There's no litmus test to be here. You're more than welcome, no matter what you think. But our goal is to train and equip conservative activists to be successful. Awesome. And let me just introduce myself as well, just really quickly. So hello, this is me. Again, Stephen Rowe. This is my Bitmoji on Snapchat. I'm pretty addicted to Snapchat. I actually have a Snapchat streak of 1,105 days, believe it or not. And of course, there's me on Twitter as well. Feel free to connect with me there as much as you'd like to. That's a great resource. But I'm originally from Montana. I'm from the Treasure State. Montana is truly beautiful. If you ever get the chance to go, I couldn't recommend it more. I always tell people that I'll be the one Montanan you'll meet about every 7 years because there's not a lot of us. We're like rare unicorns, so to speak. And there's only 1 million people total in the entire state. And we've got a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 cows for every human. And well, there were 7 black guys in Montana before I left, and now there's 6. But it really is a beautiful state. If you get the chance to go, I couldn't recommend it more. Jaw-dropping beauty. And in a world where the US passport doesn't take you to too many countries these days, go to Montana, check out Glacier National Park, check out Yellowstone. You'll absolutely love it. But while I was there, I got my chops working for the Montana Republican Party at the time, helping elect Congressman Steve Daines to Senator Steve Daines, Ryan Zinke to Congress, and of course, helping out my good friend, Greg Gianforte, who's actually currently running for the governorship, and we're all very excited to see what happens there. Before I got to LI, though, I spent a year in Chicago. Chicago was pretty interesting for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, just the state of Illinois, right? Governors always serve 2 terms in the state of Illinois, 1 term in office and 1 term in jail. Almost every single one of them. And if you're trying to get a hold of the governor's cell number, it's actually not a cell phone, it's cell block D6 at your local penitentiary. You can go visit the recently departed Rob Blagojevich for sure, and many others. I think it's like 4 of the last 6. And in Chicago was a little strange. You know, you go there for the food and stay because you got shot. Thankfully I didn't, and we were able to kind of keep moving on in my career, that's for sure. But really had a lot of awesome experiences working for a nonprofit called Turning Point USA. But what I did when I was working there is I was one person with the website, and I was reaching millions of people every single month. But I wanted to have an army of conservative activists that had their own websites and were successful on their own behalf. And that's why I saw this opportunity to work at LI, Leadership Institute, and I took it. I jumped on it. And now I'm the director of digital training here at Leadership Institute. I've been here for about 4 years now, absolutely love my job and love empowering activists to be as successful as possible online. And then lastly, if you want to stay connected with me, like I said, you have my Twitter handle there, but everything is at Robots, ROWEBOTZ. It's Robots because I'm in tech and I teach tech and digital and all of that good stuff. I'm really passionate about the intersection of technology and politics. However, if I was a rapper, I was going to go by the name Death Row. I think that would have been pretty cool, but unfortunately, I don't have mad bars. I'm just good with computers, so everything's at Robots. Feel free to follow me pretty much everywhere. LinkedIn is great too, except for Facebook, just because I'm almost at 5,000 friends, and it's just like a headache, and I don't want to start deleting people and adding people. And so everywhere but Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, my life is public. Let's stay connected because I have students reach out to me in my DMs all the time, and I'm here to be a resource for you, not only during this class, but after this course when you're out exercising your social media for activism wherever possible. All right, so the introductions are out of the way. Let's go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes. And let's talk about social media for activism. And I couldn't think of a better start than this quote. And I think it's apt. I think it's one of the best things that you can wrap your mind around when it comes to social media for activism. When you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat, right? We all remember this quote. And President Reagan at the time was telling the American people that if their representatives in Congress aren't listening and want to pass unpopular laws, AKA can't see the light, then we need to make it clear that we're unhappy by not giving campaign donations, taking action, and not voting for them, ultimately making them feel the heat. And what's really good about this now is we have the world of social media, and genuine social media activism is supported by concrete actions, donations, and measurable commitments to change. And that's what I'm going to promise to get you all to throughout this course, that's for sure. But it all starts fundamentally at the planning stage. It starts at the planning stage, right? Before you can start thinking about what you want to achieve with your social media goals, you need a clear picture of where you stand right now. And you can think of it this way. A strategy is where you're headed. A plan is how you're going to get there. And one of the best things that we have to start with, and these are questions for you in your social media game right now. What are your goals and priorities? Who are the decision makers? Maybe it's just you. What is your timeline for when you want particular things to happen? And of course, what does success look like for you? And one of the other things to consider in this planning phase is I would really encourage you, and it could be mentally, it can be right now with your phone, it can be whatever you want it to be, but you have to conduct some semblance of a social media audit, And a social media audit is going to help you record all your existing accounts and programs in one place, but also you're going to get a good sense of your current levels of performance, and we can use that as a baseline and then grow from there. That's for sure. And then now that we have this planning done, and these are the questions that we're asking ourselves, we want to be better at social media, at least in our minds, we kind of know what we're doing on social media. Maybe it's written down, maybe it's not. But now we generally, as activists, want two things from people online. And here's number one. Number one is I want people to know X. I want people to know something, right? And the goal, generally speaking, is attention, right? You want people to be aware of a political issue or a policy or a politician or the election date. And whatever we want is we want people to know things online. So first we have our goal, and then we have our measurement, which is that attention and engagement on the digital properties. And by properties, I mean your social media handles, your social media accounts, etc., and hooks for earned media. Now, one of the bigger things to note here is when we want people to know something, less is always more. Now, less is always more. I remember that one saying, KISS, keep it simple, silly. I think people say keep it simple, stupid too, but I like silly. You know, I'm not going to call anybody stupid here. But you're busy, right? And don't have endless hours to pour into social media or media outreach in general. So we have to make our efforts count. So at this point, especially at the beginning, it's not so much of a numbers game as it is about the quality of your strategy. 2 to 3 solid connections will far outweigh 1 foot in the door in a dozen places. And the other thing to note is that when we're reaching out to people, especially, for example, journalists, they're people too. And so before we start pitching them, or people that we want to engage with in general, our audience members, etc., it's important to dig a well before we're thirsty, right? Engage with them ahead of time. And ideally, you should start connecting with them long before you need them. And at the very least, about 2 months, roughly speaking, and that can move a little bit, but before you pitch. Successful media outreach and successful outreach in general is all about relationships. Your best chance of getting a large group to know things or to get published in a media outlet is to, fundamentally, it's going to hinge directly upon your relationship with the people in question. Relationships matter, especially in politics. But now we want people to know things. One of the better things that we need to do from the onset, if you haven't already, is you need to belong or build what I call a watering hole, right? You know, that you'll think of that savanna in Africa where all the animals kind of find that watering hole where they can start to enjoy their water. But we need that online for our activists and for people that we want to engage with over a long period of time. We need to bring people together who happen to be interested in a common topic. And that's going to allow them to fully understand there's a community that exists. And of course, it's going to allow them to connect with each other on a larger range of topics. Now, the watering hole can look different for different people, depending on what you're doing on social media, right? Because we're talking about pretty much the internet sometimes. One of my bigger recommendations, though, is a Facebook group. Facebook groups are one of the best ways to build this community as quickly as possible. I was helping and consulting a friend last week who just started their Facebook group and is now over 1,000 members of their Facebook group. It's a very quick way to grow and to build that watering hole, but you have to belong to as many of these as possible. And you also have to build your own if you want to have your own online community. You have to have a home base. You have to build that somehow. And generally speaking, Facebook groups is a great answer. There's also other answers like Slack or Microsoft Teams and other things of that nature, but we need a watering hole at the onset, that is for sure. And when we want people to know things, is another big important thing is, and I got a quick question, what about Discord as a more public Slack alternative? Yeah, that's totally fine. I find Discord to be tremendously helpful for the gaming community, people who play video games a lot, but it can be really valuable in general as well, for sure. That's a good question. And then the other big thing too is we need to make a good pitch, right? And these are the rules, right? 3 quick rules. It's short and sweet, it benefits them, and we provide social proof. This applies to our Facebook groups. This applies when we're posting content online. So here's some examples of that really quickly. And we see some people posting in Facebook groups right now. And one thing that you'll notice is when you post in Facebook groups, if people are surrounded upon one particular topic and you're writing or covering or interested in that topic as well, then you're going to find a high degree of engagement. And engagement is the bread and butter of Facebook groups. And if you're wondering, if you have a Facebook page, for example, and you've got like 50 likes or 100 likes or 500 or less, and you're like, why is no one liking my stuff? I'm not reaching anybody. Well, I would immediately encourage you to pivot towards a Facebook group instead of a Facebook page. Now, one thing to note, especially about Facebook, and we're going to talk about other social media sites, but this one's the biggest, so we're picking on Facebook right now. One of the big things to note is that the way their algorithm is designed is to have preference over Facebook groups now versus Facebook pages. Gone are the days of us posting on a Facebook page in 2008 and reaching 50% of the people that liked your page. But rather now, and you'll notice this, when you scrolled your Facebook timeline today, did you see a lot of things from Facebook pages or did you see something from a Facebook group that you were in? And the answer is the latter. It was the Facebook group. So this is what it does. And I really encourage you to leverage these. Not only does it help when you're seeding content and pitching in a good way, help the group get more exposure, but it also helps the members of your group because they can provide value to each other. And that's absolutely what a good community will do. And the other thing to note that one person managing a Facebook group can't provide the same level of value that a bunch of members can. So don't be afraid to expand the leadership here and allow other people to be a part of this process. And everyone has different experiences and knowledge and can provide different insights. So encourage your members to engage and see how it improves everyone's experience. And if you're looking for that engagement, if you're looking for page views, if you're looking for fundamentally people to react to you online, Facebook groups is one of the best places to be, but ultimately these watering holes are essential. But here's number 2. Number two, I want people to know things, but number two is I want people to do things. I want people to do X, right? And how do you inspire the unlikely activists to take action with you? Well, one effective way is to appeal to people's emotions, draw them into your cause to motivate them to join you on this journey. And we see the goal here where we're trying to drive people to buy something, to sign up for something, to donate, to retweet, to share, etc. And our measurement here is going to be the amount of conversions, right? And a conversion just means that someone completed your goal as a total of the amount of people that you reached out to. And assisted conversions, generally speaking, means Google Analytics in the sense that we're just tracking this information. If you don't have Google Analytics or a personal website, don't worry about it too much, but really focus on you have the goal and then how many people are actually reaching your goal. And that's the conversion rate that we're really striving for here. And most importantly, we're striving to make that personal connection, because that's when you'll have the best chance to engage and enlist people to your cause. Show them why your cause is important to them and offer a positive vision of what is possible. That is for sure. And the other big thing to note here is one of those famous quotes, right? People don't care about what you know until they know how much you care. That definitely applies here. That is for sure. The other thing to note is that visuals are important, and we have to pick our messengers as well. When we want people to take action, I've got really generally 3 rules, and I'll type them in the chat because I didn't actually put them on this slide. But the first one is consistent. I spelled consistent, attractive, and engaging. That's what we're looking for. If we're trying to make requests of people, the messenger, it could be you, it could be somebody else that fits this mold a little bit better, have to be consistent, attractive, and engaging. That is for sure. And if you want me to start measuring who's attractive in this group and who's not, I'm not going to do that for you. But you know what I'm saying here. You're much more likely to respond to someone who's those 3 things. And that's exactly what's going to get people to take action. And ultimately, when we're delivering our message online, we always want to leave people with a call to action. We always have to give people something to do. And when we want people to do things, it takes some different forms, but one of them that I get questions on a lot is making direct asks of people. And it brings me back to this quote from, I believe it's Lil Yachty, and he's a rapper, but he says business goes down in the DMs, direct messaging someone. And that is absolutely the case. Making these asks, and I just put up a couple from my DMs before, really kind of hiding most of the stuff, but it's really important that we know how to make these direct asks, right? And we see the same rules that apply here. Short and sweet, benefits them, and we provide social proof wherever possible. And one of the bigger things I see, a big mistake of people that are making asks of individuals online, fundamentally is the copy and paste. We cannot copy and paste these messages, right? There has to be an organic, at least almost natural feeling towards it. And sometimes it is a little copy and paste. It actually pushed the one on the right to be a little bit more copy and paste-ish, but the more personalized you're going to get here and provide social proof, and by benefiting them, actually talking to them as a human, the better success rate you're going to get on people to take action online. One of the better things you can do fundamentally is say a person's name, right? Everyone's favorite word in the English language is their name, and leveraging that wherever possible is always a really good thing. But then the other thing that's happening here is we're not overloading people with a bunch of asks. We're making usually one direct asks, because if you're asking for everything, you're asking for nothing, right? And so we have to be very purposeful about our asks wherever possible, and we're being short and sweet, right? These things are not large paragraphs. They're very easy to read, and that's really essential as well. If you start posting paragraphs in people's DMs, they might think you're a little creepy, to be completely honest with you. So we need to be short and sweet and to the point. And one other thing about making direct asks online, one of the best things you can do if you want to get to level 2, level 3 really quickly, and in terms of being an expert at this, is really grabbing their contact information and then following up with a phone call or a text message instead of a DM. And maybe you DM them for that information, but you can convince someone and be far more persuasive on the phone than you can be online. So if you're trying to make people to do things, especially making big asks, like asking for money or asking for their time, talent, or treasure, is generally what I say here, then we want to pull them on the phone wherever possible. And this is really a big thing for a lot of millennials and a lot of Gen Zers out there. A lot of people aren't the biggest people to pick up the phone and start dialing, but it really does make a tremendous difference. You can sense someone on the phone, you know their hesitation, you can speak towards anything that they may be nervous about that they didn't want to type out, all that important stuff. So really want to elevate that wherever possible, but it's certainly okay to make the asks and the DMs depending on the level of the ask, that's for sure. Now, looking back at social media as well, is we need to first and foremost identify our audience members because this is the biggest thing. And, you know, you see this all the time on the World Wide Web. People say, know your audience, know your audience, know your audience. And I'm going to be one of those people that says the exact same thing because it's that important. It really is. Knowing who your audience and ideal voter or customer, etc., is and what they want to see on social is absolutely key to creating content that they're going to like, comment on, and share, right? It's also critical if you want to turn these followers into action takers. That is for sure. So one of the better things we can do to start identifying our audience is gather real world data. First and foremost, we have social media analytics, right? And they can provide a ton of valuable information about who your followers are, where they live, what languages they speak, and how they interact with your brand on social media. And it's these insights, and I call them data-driven insights, that are going to allow you to refine your strategy and better target people. Again, if we're talking to everybody, we're talking to no one. So we have to start identifying who our audience member is. And one of my bigger recommendations, and this is really important because you see the general audience in one of these columns, but the next one is the segment of your audience, right? And I'd ask for you all to create a profile of your ideal audience member as if he or she was actually a real person. That way we can craft a targeted message right to them. And these messages should use the right tone of voice and address the specific needs and desires that they may be experiencing at the time. And so you can see we have got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We see what their general audience is, which is going to tell us if this is the right social media platform for us. Then we see the segment of our audience that exists on that social media site. And ultimately, it's also really important that we have our goal in mind. We have to have a goal, because if we don't have a goal, we can't succeed at all. We'll never hit the goal, right? So it's very important that that is also a part of it. And then the other thing to note here that I think is really important for people getting started in the world of social media is you have to understand that you can have a strategy for each social media channel, such as like a Facebook strategy and an Instagram strategy and so on, but they all must lead up to your overall social media strategy. Generally speaking, what I call this is your home base, which typically speaking is a website, right? It can be everything from an email list, it can be something, and sometimes you just exist on one social media site, right? The biggest example of that I see is generally like YouTube, things like that. But you have to have some level of home base where you can collect people's information. And this is really essential. Michael said, great slides. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. And one of the bigger things here is that this is the difference between a rented audience and an owned audience, right? When we're playing on Facebook, that's not our audience, right? That's Mark Zuckerberg's audience. When we're playing on Twitter, that's not our audience, that's Jack Dorsey's audience. But when we have their phone numbers, when we have their email addresses, that is now our audience. We own that audience and we can take it and use it wherever we go. And this is one of the bigger things here to note, especially in the world where people are concerned about censorship and things of that nature. Well, one of the best ways you can be insulated from all of that is owning your audience wherever possible. All it means is that you're able to reach people almost like they're your friend, right? You can pick up the phone and call them, or you can start typing on your keyboard and email them. So strive for an owned audience wherever possible. That is for sure. And we got to note, I got a quick question in the Q&A, but not every post needs to link to your homepage. If it's just an informative news article, for instance. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to break that down a lot as well. That's a good question. But I'll just answer it really quickly here as well. And again, we'll dive into this a little deeper. There should never be a point where all of your posts are making asks of people. I usually call this give, ask, right? And that's really essential to success. We have to deposit value before we can withdraw value. But ultimately, pushing them towards a home base is going to be our ultimate goal. So we're going to share plenty on these social media sites. We're going to live on these social media sites. It's one of the best places we can acquire new audience members for sure. But ultimately, we want to try wherever possible to convert to an owned audience. And so this is kind of what it looks like. And I will say, it's actually a lot like speed dating. So for anybody who's single out there, not only is this a social media class, but we're going to help you kind of lock in that deal, so to speak. Kind of kidding. But you've seen this type of chart before likely on the World Wide Web. And it's been described a couple different ways. You know, the way I see it online a lot of times is AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action. We've also seen that funnel look where it goes from that top to come down, that funnel look. This is basically the same thing as those things. We're just kind of mapping out, finding our supporters online. And like I said, it's kind of like speed dating because relationships are not always easy. They require time, energy, and above all else, a commitment to your supporters. And we need to treat our audience members, our clients, our supporters, our voters, like we would treat a significant other. We need to get to know them. We need to treat them with respect, build trust, and most importantly, we need to be in it for the long haul so that we can cultivate a long-term relationship. And it starts at the top where they need to know you exist. And that's going to be, we're going to focus a lot on that in our content section here today. Be showing you all how to make compelling and awesome content. But from a strategy perspective, once we have that and they know that we exist, then we're going to ask them on a date, aka maybe ask them for their contact information, push them to our email list, etc. And now we're going to cultivate this relationship, right? And this is just where most of us are going to stay for a long time, where we're going to maintain and build this relationship with each other. And finally, we're going to convert them, right? Whatever that conversion may be, right? It could be them speaking at your event. It could be them donating to your campaign. It could be them making phone calls for you. But roughly speaking, this is what it looks like. We build awareness, we acquire, we cultivate this relationship, and now we convert them into our goal as fast as possible. Ali just said website is so important, and I completely agree. But one of the bigger questions I get all the time is, Stephen, which social media site should I be on, right? There's so many of them. You know, people are on Parler these days. People are on TikTok. You know, which social media sites are going to be the ones for you? Well, these questions, I've got six questions for you, excuse me. Here's the first three, right? Which type of content succeeds here? What is the general tone? And what is my audience's tone? But when it comes to creating your social media goals, you need to brainstorm a list of both typical and unusual ways social media could work for your brand. But here's the most important thing to note here is we cannot push, and this is one of the biggest mistakes I see, we cannot push the same content on all platforms. Don't push the same content on all platforms unless you must. And it has to be a rare thing when you do it. That's for sure. That way, you know, let's break this down for a second. Let's imagine you have a Facebook, you've got a LinkedIn, and you've got an Instagram, right? Maybe that's the case. And if I follow you on Instagram or Facebook, and you're posting the same exact stuff on LinkedIn, then what's my incentive to follow you on LinkedIn? There's none, because I already get all of your stuff on the other social media platform. And so by not pushing the same content on all platforms, you're going to be able to expand your audience in a much better way because you're offering different things to different people. And for the person who's acquired, the person who's already a part of your team, so to speak, they're going to be much more inclined to follow you across all social media platforms. So don't push the same content on all platforms. And remember that having more social media platforms is not always better. You have to be thoughtful and strategic when choosing which social platform is best for you, your organization, your campaign, your business, etc. Right? Your customers, followers, voters, etc. are coming to you to find relevant and unique content. And quality always, especially online, quality always outweighs quantity. That is for sure. And the next three questions that I have are, is my intended audience spending time here? How is my intended audience using this platform? And who does my intended audience follow, right? And then I've got one more bonus question for you. And this is probably probably a question that most of us have an answer to at this point, but still very relevant to right now. What kind of content do you want to create, right? Because that's really relevant and it's going to help you choose and narrow down which social media site is going to work for you, right? For example, if you want to increase brand awareness, we would consider selecting well-established platforms with a large following, right? And similarly, one of the most effective ways for raising awareness and extending reach is through paid promotion. So those questions start to arise, right? But ultimately, like I said earlier too, the tightest and most effective social media strategy are informed by social media demographics. We have to know our audience, and these data-driven insights will ensure that your strategy and the channels you choose facilitate the most relevant, targeted approach possible, which in turn will increase your chances of conversion, right? And just building on this just a little bit, right? If we want to increase lead generation, you know, for example, from business perspective, LinkedIn is renowned for being a champion at that type of stuff. But whether it's joining groups and participating in discussions, then Facebook and Twitter are going to be very effective in that realm. But one thing to note is that, you know, in this realm, that maintaining a Snapchat account may be deemed a wasted effort if it's our largest customer segment is composed of 60-year-old women, right? They're not going to be on Snapchat. And so it's really important that we're asking these questions about our audience, who they're following, and what they're looking for on that platform in general. But I have a better analogy, and a better analogy starts with this cute dog. And I've got this dog on the screen for two reasons. It's so cute. It's literally the cutest. But I've got this dog on the screen for two reasons. The first reason is that I'm going to have this dog in my life at one point. Once I stop traveling for work so much, I'm going to settle down, going to get a nice either golden doodle or yellow lab, something of that nature. I think it's going to be perfect, but I'm getting distracted. The second reason that I have this dog on the screen for all of us here today is I want you to think of a social media platform much like this cute puppy, right? It's cute. All the kids are playing on it, and you're asking yourself, should I adopt this dog, AKA social media site? Now, I don't know how people adopt dogs in the city. Like I said, I'm from Montana. And so when we go to adopt the dog, what we're going to do is we're going to hop in our car, drive down to the farm, get out of our car, and we realize very quickly that puppies are born in litters. And there's so many cute puppies, AKA social media sites, that are out there. And they're all wagging their tails. They're all playing around, just being really adorable and really cute at the same time. Very shiny, very new, that is for sure. And a couple of them are all giving you those cute puppy dog eyes saying, please, please take me home. And if you're Melissa McCarthy from the movie Bridesmaids, if we've all seen that before, you actually decided to take all the puppies, put them in your car, and start driving down the street. And she's pretty excited right now. She's pumped. She's got probably about 12 dogs in the car right now, and she thinks she's won the lottery. But what Melissa doesn't realize is that 5 miles down the road, and for any of us that have had dogs before, you know this, that if there's that many dogs, you know, 2 of them are fighting, 3 of them are doing things they shouldn't be, another 2 of them are doing things they, doing the do, that type of stuff. It's just ultimately too much to handle. And so the moral of this quick puppy dog, AKA social media story, is I would rather you spend your time on 2 to 6 social media platforms where you can be effective than spread yourself too thin and not be effective anywhere. Time is an incredibly finite resource. And so we have to pick and choose our battles. And so let's use the social media sites that work best for our organization, our brand, our campaign, etc. Now, we can have a small presence on a couple of these, but we have to have our breadwinners. We have to have the dogs that we're going to take care of, right? And I'm encouraging you all to only bite off as much as you can chew, but please do not bite any dogs. And Carrie just said, today is National Black Dog Day. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so if anybody has a chocolate or black lab out there, really the win. I think Australian Shepherds are pretty black too. They're a little spotted. They usually have the white nose, but very cute and very good point to note out. So we're choosing our social media platforms. We're choosing the ones that work for us. I created this in March of this year, so it's not too old, but you see what I'm doing here now that I'm starting to evaluate platforms. And I really encourage you to do something similar. So on the platform, we have the audience, then we have the purpose that we're on the platform for, and then the preferred content that we're going to share on that social media platform. So for example, we'll pick on Facebook for a second again. 190 million people in the USA, which is my target audience in this example. 34 million conservatives exist on Facebook. And these are all accurate statistics as of March of this year. So there's been about 6 months now, but relatively much the same. 46% male, 54% female, and it has all age ranges. So no matter who I'm trying to reach, I'll likely reach them on Facebook. Now, my purpose on Facebook is to build relationships, foster conversations, and increase engagement. And when I'm posting on Facebook, my content is going to be media rich. And this is pretty much the case for all social media sites, though. We want to be pretty media rich, which means that photos, videos, things of that nature tend to work much better than plain text in general. But then also we've got Facebook Live here as another resource that we have. on our preferred content on Facebook. And we can go down the list. We see that on Twitter now. You know, my preferred content is going to be text because it's tweets, but we have GIFs and links. On Instagram, I'm going to be media rich again, my videos and pictures, primarily pictures. We can leverage those Instagram stories. On YouTube, it's predominantly entertainment and do-it-yourself videos, things of that nature. So you can see how we're starting to map out which platforms are going to work for us. And again, another big question for you all, and all the other questions before kind of led to this, but like what platforms are fulfilling these needs for you and which ones are you going to start to take ownership of much more? And when we think about that, it's important to realize that we have to go all the way back up to the top, right? The reason we're doing this in the first place. And I know I say organizational goals. Some of us are lone wolves. We are the organization, but this still applies for you, right? What is the measurement for this online of how we're going to reach our organizational goals, which means that we want voters, you know, we want activists, we want, you know, butts in seats, we want, you know, volunteers, etc. How does social media link towards this? And then which social media platforms are the perfect fit and which ones are not, right? Because for the best social media strategy, we have to start looking at our company, organization, or ourselves most pressing goals, right? And seeing how our social media presence can help achieve them. Here's an example of how this might work, right? Let's say that you run a candidate's new campaign. Look at you, campaign manager, look at you go, right? And you can align your social media goals according to your upcoming main goal, right? To raise awareness of candidate, let's say X, for example, and to come up with a strategy to get people out to vote. So from there, now we can take actionable steps on social media, which is like running a social media campaign to promote the launching of your campaign. We could also use social media to further our campaign's goal by gathering donations, recruiting volunteers, and sharing interesting updates. Anne just says, had to put my 13-and-a-half-year-old chocolate lab down in May. Oh, I'm so sorry, Anne. That's not fun at all. I've had to put a dog down before. It's never great, but you know, we'll celebrate their life. That's for sure. And we'll remember the good times. So now let's talk about content just a little bit. And like I said, we're going to dive into making content. I'm going to show you some tools, some resources, some websites as we get a little further down the train. But first and foremost, again, from the strategy perspective of our content, before we get tactical, we're just going to be from that 30,000-foot view, just real quickly, of looking down at our content. Okay, so what does my audience want to be affiliated with? Because that's the content that we're going to start to generate and create. And of course, what does my audience want to share? If we're asking ourselves these questions, then we're going to be in a much better situation than most people when they're on social media, because we have to focus on our audience. It goes audience first every single time. But then the other three questions I have for us on content from a strategy perspective is, how can I adapt major content to social media? For example, let's say that you were on the, let's say that you got a Fox News interview, actually. Let's say Fox News called you up and says, we need you on TV tomorrow. Well, one of the better things that we could do is start adapting that to social media. So now I can say, how can this Fox News interview adapt to social media? Well, first and foremost, let's break it down a little bit. First and foremost, we could create Instagram stories of us going to the Fox News studio, being picked up in the limo, talking about what you're going to talk about on TV, showing us the green screen, right? And now we actually have the physical interview, right? Once that interview is done, now our friends and family are probably all sharing that on social media. They love to see it, that's for sure. But now that can be packaged and sent out to maybe Facebook, where the direct interview is, or maybe YouTube, right? Maybe Twitter, right? Wherever that interview is going to go. But now we can also capture the post of it all, right? And so now we're done with the interview. Maybe we hop back on Twitter or on Facebook Live or on our Instagram story one more time and start to break down, what happened? What were the talking points that you missed, or what did you absolutely nail, right? Now you start to see how that whole experience can be broken down across social media. And that's how you have to start thinking about your content. So it's not just the actual event, it's things leading up to the event, it's things after the event, how people felt about the event, all that important stuff really applies, that's for sure. And then you look at what are the strengths of your content and where is it going to naturally perform best. So I got a couple questions. Let me answer these real quickly. Star just said, how do you figure out what your audience wants to be associated with? Do you poll your audience? No, well, you can absolutely poll your audience. One of the best ways to figure out what your audience wants to be associated with is fundamentally looking at what they're sharing and where they exist currently. So let me pull out an example of this. Let's say that I'm a Trump supporter, right? We'll make it super easy, and that may be across the board for a lot of people. Hypothetically speaking, because I'm a 501c3 nonprofit, hypothetically speaking, I'm a Trump supporter, and from there, now we can start to figure out what our audience wants to be associated with, right? We can pick on this week, for example. We just had the debates 2 days ago now. What does a Trump supporter want to be associated with, right? And now you can probably start finding potentially some articles, right? For let's pick on a couple of them, just some real world examples here. So Chris Wallace was asking that the question about will you denounce white supremacy? Did you know that 4 years ago in 2016, Chris Wallace, the same moderator in the same presidential debate, roughly speaking, asked the same question, and Trump said, yes, I denounce it. And he's denounced it many other times, things like that. But now if you pull it up from an activism standpoint, hey, look at that interview. Remember when Chris asked this 4 years ago? Why is he asking it again now? Maybe he has an agenda, right? Well, then now that's going to fuel positive interaction online, right? And so again, to figure out what your audience wants to be associated with, just put yourself in their perspective. That's a good example of it in like using real world terms. And then polling your audience, that definitely helps for sure. But like I said, social media demographics are going to be the quickest way to know. So you know that you're talking to people in Indiana who are between 45 and 60, right? That's a quick example, but that's how you start to really point it down. That's for sure. Hopefully that answers your question. I can elaborate a little more if I need to. Anne just says, how does copyright work with such a segment? Okay, that was probably the Fox News example. Yeah, so copyright is very important. It's important to note. I will say, generally speaking, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to put that caveat out there, and this is not legal advice. But one thing to note that I want to say that's really important for a lot of us is that online, social media, and the World Wide Web in general is the wild, wild west. It is very difficult to, in any serious way, as a part of a company or organization, to protect your copyright online. It's very, very difficult to do. And most people won't, because of course it's very difficult to do. So posting things online is generally, you're not going to get caught for it, but I will say that my teaching hat is on, and I'm going to say, don't do that, but you probably won't get caught for it. But the important thing to note as well is when you are, especially the interview experience on Fox News, you have permission to share that one and that example. But more on this in general, if you're ever nervous about what you're sharing on the World Wide Web, maybe it's posted from somewhere else or from somebody, I always call it the best thing you can do is give attribution. Just say, I got it from here, credit goes to here, etc. And you're generally going to be in the green almost every single day. And Robert actually said something pretty well. He said fair use. Another important thing to know, fair use definitely applies in the world of copywriting and copyright infringement for sure. Most instances, fair use, generally speaking, basically means you are eligible to use this. But I wouldn't overthink it. I would generally just share things that you think are interesting and give people credit, and you will never have to worry about copyright or people yelling at you. The worst you'll get is someone to say, hey, could you take that down? And then you can say yes or no from there. That's for sure. Brian just said, related, if I wanted to read from another person's article or book, use a film or TV clip, where do I find out about the copyrights and properly giving credit to the source? Yeah, so if it's a film or TV clip, it's going to be a little easier to find out where that credit is coming from. That is for sure. But my general rule is just to do your best to really find the author. You know, a good way to think about this is the quotes you see online. You know, sometimes it says quotes from unknown, right? But it's still in quotation marks. That's really the way to think about it. So if you don't really know where it's coming from, you can say, you can put those quotes there, or you can say that this isn't an original thought, or just preface this in some way that says you found it somewhere, but this is extremely relevant, all that good stuff. So that's one of the better things to do in general if you don't know. But for example, if it's a TV clip or film, it's pretty easy to find out who you should give credit to, because you can just like say, thanks Fox News for having me, right? And you can share the clip and you're gonna be good to go. Ali said MAGA, thanks, fair use. And then wondering what your take is on the snark strategy on the Biden Twitter account. It's kind of like they hijacked the Wendy's Twitter strategy. Their engagement has been good. Do you feel it's effective? That's a good question. And one of the things I will recommend here, and let me just switch to the next slide really quickly, but I'm gonna answer this question right now. Being witty and snarky online generally gets you points, but you have to do it properly. So the best way to think about it is that we see Wendy's Twitter account, they're kind of known for doing that. That's really the essence of it. Your brand has to be likely associated with that type of action, right? And if it's not, then it's not going to look good. If you saw, for example, if it's tone deaf is probably the best way to say it. If you saw Webster's dictionary like flip somebody off on Twitter, you'd probably be like, what? Why is the dictionary flipping somebody off? That's not very cool. And you're going to be like, that's a different reaction versus, oh, that's Wendy's, oh, that's so funny. I heard they diss people on Twitter. Like that's hilarious. So you kind of see that sense right there. So it has to go with fundamentally your organization's tone, right? If you have the tone of where you're going to do that, then you can absolutely proceed. But if you were some high reputable, unbiased, or above the fray type of organization, well, then that's not going to get you very far. That's for sure. So I'd always match the tone of your audience and the platform. And then that's going to give you the level of, I guess, movement that you're allowed on particular social media point. And then Emily just says, do you think sharing things from other users on platforms is helpful? Yes, I absolutely do. And I really encourage you to share and build that community wherever possible. I think retweeting people is a good thing. I think sharing other people's work is a great thing. Definitely want to allow this community to get as big as possible. Sharing is very positive in general. Definitely recommend sharing. But now, just real quickly on the strategy, and then we'll take a turn towards actually content creation and all that good stuff. But fundamentally, we'll start here, which is your top level. And this is your number one top level. Again, we're at strategy, social media strategy for just a second. And this is our valuable real world outcome for all our social media, right? And now, as we talked about before, now we're going to have digital measurements to get there. And this is going to be independent of channel, right? And that's really important to note that this is our struggle. This is our, not a struggle, this is our plight, so to speak. This is what we want to happen. This is our contrast. This is, the world is black and we want it to be to white, or white to black, yin and yang, that type of thing. That's going to exist independent of the social media platform, which is essential for success. So if one of your legs go down, aka Twitter goes down or Facebook goes down, your top level goals still exist. So it always has to be independent of channel. But then we have our channel level goals. So this is our channel. This is our Facebook channel, our Twitter, our YouTube, etc. This is now, from a strategy perspective, it's the audience we're reaching, the content that's the best fit, and the actions we'd like our audience members to take. And like I said earlier, building a community on social media is among the best ways to increase loyalty and retention. Having a community just means having a place where people can come together, the watering hole, and share in their brand loyalty. And it's extremely important for long-term growth, and it's how you cultivate people that are going to be on your team for the long haul. That is for sure. And then I got a quick question from Ann. Ann just says, how to beat censorship? Does big tech target the biggest targets? So first and foremost, let's answer the first question: how to beat censorship. I would say fundamentally is owning your audience is one of the best ways to beat censorship, because then we can just reach our audience members directly. A good case study on this is actually the website, and I agree with them or disagree with them. A good case study of this is Infowars, right? Infowars.com, banned on Twitter, banned on Facebook, but their page views are still going up. People are very integrated into that system. Another good case study of this, again, like her or hate her, but she's able to survive, who's running for Congress right now, Laura Loomer in Florida, banned on Twitter, right? But still has an incredibly successful, was past her primary and is now the candidate for office, right? These are good examples of how you're beating censorship. It's because you own your audience, and that's going to be fundamentally how it happens. And then the second question, does big tech target the biggest targets? That's a tough question to answer. That's going to be a question that kind of has to be answered by big tech versus me. I just be speculating at this point because I'm not in those closed door meetings at Google, at Facebook, at Twitter. But what I generally say is, what I'll generally say is, typically speaking, so not always, but typically speaking, they want to enable the platform to exist for everybody within the certain rules of the road, right? As long as you play by the rules, you're always welcome on the platform. So generally speaking, big tech does not specifically target people, but there have been many instances of conservative censorship on social media platforms. One of the bigger ones that comes to mind is absolutely the Unplanned movie. We all remember that pro-life movie. On the release, the movie Unplanned, their Twitter account got suspended, which definitely affects their ability to promote and engage with their audience when their movie comes out. Not a good thing at all, that is for sure. But generally speaking, the best thing we can do is push forward anyways, own our audience, and we can always find new platforms. And big tech does so much of an overreach as to really ban a specific large group of people, those people are not going to just give up, right? We're going to find a different watering hole, a different platform, a different resource, and keep moving on. That is for sure. So then looking back at the strategy for a second, now we see the channels, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. But now we have tactics, specific tactics that's going to lead towards the reaching of our goals. A great way to visualize what we're doing on social media. So we have the channel, we have our tactics, and now we have the measurement on channel and toward goal. And one of the best ones that I recommend is engagement rate. Engagement rate is the percentage of engagement on a post out of all the impressions that it's going to get. And like I said earlier, I think I might have not said this, but I'll say it now. It's like the social media experts' peanut butter sandwich. Almost everyone loves it. Engagement is one of the best things that we're measuring, and we're using specific tactics to increase our engagement. And if that happens, then whatever our goal might be, that's going to allow us to reach our goals, our activism goals online. And then from there, now what we're going to do is we're going to set time periods. And these time periods are going to happen weekly, monthly, and quarterly. And a big part of creating a social media strategy that works for your business, your campaign, your organization, yourself, is figuring out what your core social media schedule is going to look like. You have to have a calendar, right? And a social media or content schedule will help you with consistency and retention, as well as assisting with content gaps and figuring out what works and what doesn't for your audience. It'll also ensure you don't end up tearing your hair out in frustration when looking for what to post, right? You have a calendar, you're ready to take action, and you can most importantly be proactive, which is so important. A lot of people wake up in the morning and they let the world react, right? They react to the world happening to them. My biggest encouragement for all of you is to be proactive, right? You're going to take action on the world, and people are going to be reacting to you. So we're going to be proactive and not reactive. Ollie just said, which one is better? Share with right post, or just share the original content? I'm not sure I get what your first question is. I think that might have been just a quick typo. Share with right post. So it depends on the social media platform too, based on like what we're sharing. So that's important to note. But generally, again, it's going to depend on what you're sharing and where you're sharing it. Here's a good example of that. Let's say that I've got a YouTube video and I want to share it on Facebook, right? And we all know this probably, but just in case we don't share the YouTube link, right? It's best to upload or upload directly to Facebook and share it as a Facebook video instead of sharing the YouTube link. It's going to be a night and day difference on the amount of engagement that we reach with these people, which is for sure the case across all social media platforms. Is that typically speaking, if you want to share directly on the platform, but if you're sharing things that are on that platform, for example, let's say Twitter, for example, well, then retweeting is a really positive thing because we're retweeting on the platform, right? But again, using that YouTube link example, if I grab the YouTube link and then try to share it on Twitter, Twitter's going to be like, oh, that's YouTube, that's not cool. And conversely, if you uploaded the video directly to Twitter and then posted it, then Twitter's going to be like, oh, this is a Twitter video. We're going to share this on Twitter, much better. That's for sure. Okay, and you said, share Facebook post with my caption and my idea, or just share original Facebook post. It definitely depends in that instance as well on Facebook, for sure. What I'll say here is that when you're sharing on Facebook, if everyone is sharing the same thing, it's going to consolidate all into one place. And you've probably seen this when you share, when other people have shared, it'll say like 3 of your friends have shared this, and you'll show the first person. You can click down to see more and see all the people that have shared it as well. So one better thing to do, typically speaking on Facebook, is to write a post directly rather than share in most instances. But sharing can be very positive on Facebook as well. We definitely are searching for shares, but that's for sure. Hannah just said, I've been shadow banned by Twitter twice. How do I keep from being shadow banned when sharing conservative content? Yeah, so that's a good question, bringing up the evil shadow banning, which is not very fun. Definitely happens to people for sure, and it's not a good situation to find yourself in. Now, typically speaking, uh, one of the bigger things that I would look for first and foremost is your followers. How many people are following you on Twitter? If there's less than 1,000 followers, for example, then you may not just be reaching a lot of people in general, but it definitely depends on kind of where you're at here. So that's important to note. But one of the better things I would encourage you to do, Hannah, is to actually go into where the conversations are happening, and then you can't be shadow banned basically in the light, so to speak. So we're going to go where people are and start commenting there, and then your profile has to show up there. And I'll walk through an example with you in just a second. Oh, not just a second, probably like 30 minutes when we get to Twitter, but we're almost there. We're almost past the strategy perspective and onto like the practicals, the websites, the tools, and the tactics. We're almost there, but we're just looking at it from the top view right now. And what we're going to do, actually, it's 2 o'clock right on the dot. So we're actually going to take a quick 5-minute break from 2 to 2:05. We'll pick back up in just 5 minutes. I'll keep answering questions in the chat, but I'm not going to press next on my slides until 2:05. So if you need a quick break, cup of coffee, use the bathroom, now's your chance, and we'll pick it back up at 2:05. And I'm going to still answer questions in the chat until we keep going with the presentation. Eric said, share with comment or share is a choice based on content of the post. Yeah, definitely. And Ali said, thank you so much. Great tip. Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help. Happy to help. Mark just says, I notice in groups, I am looking through that many people have their activity logs appearing on their Facebook homepage. Any tips on how to do this? Have your activity log appear on their Facebook homepage? You can do that with a couple clicks. Let me pull up Facebook really quickly. Let me pull it up over here. It's just, I don't know what's going to pop up on my personal Facebook. Some things, most of the time it's like baby announcements, but sometimes there's like the weird person that just has to say something. Actually, it looks pretty safe so far. Okay, so we have I've fallen in love with the pencil and we're getting married. I can't wait to introduce my parents to my bride to be. Ha, get it? That's so funny. Okay, so over here, let me just grab my annotation tools. We have our groups option right here, and that's what we're going to click right there is our groups option. So once I click my groups option, now we're going to be able to scroll the groups that we participate in, and this is going to be the activity on your main page, Mark, the place that I think this is what you're asking. But now I can see my Facebook groups, the groups that I participate in, and just scroll my groups as a feed as my home page. So all I have to do is click groups on the right-hand column. The other thing to note here that I was pointing out earlier to everyone is that look at this engagement. So this person posted right here, great activism for sure, and has 101 likes on it, 10 comments, which is great engagement. People are excited about it. 23 likes, 385 comments, 26 likes, 130 comments. That's what I'm talking about, friends. The Facebook group has a lot going for it, that is for sure. But hopefully that answers your question, Mark. And we'll get started again in 3 minutes. We're gonna keep moving forward in 3 minutes. 2:05. And I'm happy to continue answering questions. I hope everyone's day is just going so well. Hopefully this first hour is like, okay, I'm starting to think about social media. I'm starting to like it. And that's awesome. That's very cool. Oh, Josiah just said, how do you figure out what KPIs are best for your strategy? Is there a way to narrow down what your KPIs are? Yeah, so in KPIs, Josiah is talking about, for people that are unaware of the term, is key performance indicator, your KPIs, your key performance indicators. So the number one things that I'm looking for with KPIs, typically speaking, is first and foremost, like I've said before, is our engagement rate. What was our engagement rate last week, and what is our engagement rate this week? The next big thing is our attrition rate, which can go positive or negative, right? We have more followers than last week, or we have less followers than this week. Depending on the social media site, that could be likes or could be subscribers, but you get what I'm saying here. We have more followers or less followers. So we're watching those attrition rates, we're watching our engagement rates. And then the other big KPI that I think is really successful is ultimately our conversion rate, right? What is the goal, right? That is fundamentally going to be different for everybody, but you have a real reason to be on social media. And that you have to be thinking about that first and foremost. So my goal is to get page views, or is my goal to get contact information? Is my goal to get volunteers, or is my goal to get donations, right? But that's going to be my larger KPIs, like the fundamental goal that is my like top line, high priority goal. And that's going to be the third thing that I'm measuring, and the most important one, and probably reverse that in order. So we'll go our number one real world outcomes, the real reason we're on social media, is the first KPI. And then to see how that's being affected, the two that I look at the most are, typically speaking, engagement rate and attrition rates. Now, there's a lot of other KPIs out there. The other thing to note with this is that there's a lot of vanity metrics, so to speak. And by vanity metrics, I mean Facebook and Twitter and YouTube is going to measure literally everything and then give that all to you and say, like, here's this information. Isn't this interesting, right? The whole point of KPIs is to really narrow in on the ones that really affect your bottom line as to whether you're being successful or not. And that's the ones that we're going to focus on ultimately. Okay, I've got one more question, and then we're going to press the next slide and continue on. And here we go. Anne said, thank you, Stephen. This is great. How much time is reasonable to devote to social media and still have a life? That's a great question. And again, that's going to be very variable based on what your goals are ultimately. But typically speaking, you should devote a good amount of time to social media. And what I'll say, generally speaking, is about one to 2 hours a day if you're trying to actively use it and grow it for your business, for your campaign, for your organization, for sure. But that's gonna vary a lot based on what people are doing. So I would say at minimum 1 hour, but then it can be all the way up to, it can be someone's full-time job, right? So it's definitely gonna vary. Eric just says, Stephen, I was on the phone with Brigitte Gabriel, Act for America last night. She says hi, and she says she looks for Leadership Institute graduates for her organization. That's amazing. Yes, Brigitte's incredible. Had the honor of working for her a couple times. She's awesome. And I was actually, fun fact about Brigitte Gabriel, I was in Western Conservative Summits in Denver, Colorado. And this woman is the most popular woman that I've seen in person. I mean, there were some high-level speakers. I mean, there was Donald Trump Jr., there was Charlie Kirk, there was Matt Schlapp. I mean, there was a lot of other high-level speakers. But when Brigitte Gabriel got off that stage at the Western Conservative Summit last year, there was probably 100 people surrounding her and just wanted to buy her book and be engaged. I mean, she's got quite the following. It's pretty impressive to see. And then Robert just says, I went for coffee. What is KPI? Yeah, KPI is key performance indicator. Boom, just typed it in the chat right there. And we'll get to that too. And we'll talk about that actually kind of right now, because we're on the review and improve section of our strategy. And now we're going to move forward here. So this is the measurements, the experiments, and the best practices / case studies. Some big things to note here is don't be afraid to reuse your top posts. You know, reformat it, reword things a different way. Don't just copy and paste it, but reuse your top posts. If there's content and you're posting about, for example, you know, school choice, and that worked out extraordinarily well, let's talk about it again, right? Just take it from a different angle. To maximize that value of that tweet, we could consider retweeting it or republishing it. Like I said, ideally with different copy several days or weeks later. But if we repeat this flow for a while, we can build up a nice repository of social media posts that have proven to be great to fall back on whenever we have that social media manager's block, right? Another aspect of reviewing how we use social media is to determine what things you'd like to change or explore, right? Whether that be rebranding your accounts, giving them a new theme, or trying out new forms of visual content there are always aspects to play with when it comes to your online presence. A good question for that is, when's the last time you've changed your profile picture, right? When's the last time you changed your cover photo on Facebook, if you run it for an organization or just for yourself, right? If the answer is it's been 4 or 5 years, well, let's start to think about how we can review and improve that for 2020, maybe for this campaign cycle, or maybe just for something personal in general. But if you haven't changed your profile picture in 5 years, then you're not reviewing and improving your social media, right? And that's one of my bigger recommendations to do. We absolutely have to do that. And the other big thing is that we have SMART goals. And this is the last thing before we hop into content. But we have to have SMART goals. And it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, right? And let's walk through these just real quickly. Specific, we have to be clear, right, with our goals, as clear as possible, right? Does the words increase engagement mean you want 100 new followers or 1,000, right? We need to make our social media goals specific, which will help us keep and track our progress and measure success. And by measure, that's the next one. We have measurable goals, right? And every goal needs to have some kind of metric, right? The words improve customer service is a great concept, but it's not a goal unless we have a way to measure that improvement. Attainable, which means that your social media goals should absolutely require you to stretch. They should be big, hairy goals, but they should also be within reach of what we're able to do if we put in the work. The next one is relevant. And this piece ties back to our goal setting and our larger objectives from a strategy perspective. If our goal involves increasing Facebook likes, for example, we need to make sure that we know how that's going to benefit our organization, our campaign. And if it's not, then we need a different goal, right? And finally, that time bound, right? Deadlines keep everyone accountable. We've all been in high school and middle school and college when, the paper was 2 weeks away and then the paper was 1 day away, right? Now that it's time bound, it's going to keep you accountable. So include a time frame for completion of your goal, so you know when to check in for success. And you might also want to include some milestones along the way for incremental check-ins, that is for sure. But now let's talk about content. This is one of the more fun parts of social media in general, making sure our content is there in the first place. So let's go ahead and jump right in with, first and foremost, I kind of asked this question at the beginning with our strategy conversation, but now that we're in the content section, what kind of content do you want to create? Roughly speaking, there are 3 mediums of effective communication on the internet. First is copy/images. This is from, this is everything from blogs to memes to emails and Yelp reviews and Facebook posts and tweets and news articles, right? Then we have audio, podcasts, music, audiobooks, things of that nature. And then we have video, right? And video is probably the biggest section, where we have everything from YouTube to cat videos to Fox News to, Instagram stories, etc. And as you can tell by the screen, these forms often blend together, right? And let's pick on YouTube just for a second, one more time, is that we have the video up top, but we've got the comment section down below. But fundamentally, we are producing content. And so when we're producing content, what content are we trying to create, right? Do we want to be a video person? Do we want to be an audio person? Or do we want to be a typer or a writer, so to speak, or a creator? It still exists with the keyboard for sure. Memes, for example, that type of stuff. Really important thing to know. But you could be a couple of these, but we have to have an idea of what content we want to create in the first place. So what content do you want to create? And Anne just said, any suggestions for best video background? Yeah, that's a good question. One of my bigger recommendations is a static background. So, for example, on Zoom here, I've got the option of, I've got the option of adding these like backgrounds to the back of me, which are virtual backgrounds. We've all kind of seen them before. So I can let me hop back here. Let's go right here. Oh, okay, cool. Now I'm in New York, right? Really cool stuff. Now I'm at a Trump rally. Let's go. Now I'm cheering. It's graduation day. We did it. Or now I look like the tech person and I'm contacting you from my office, which is pretty cool stuff. But the best background, I would argue, is actually the static one behind me. So my bigger recommendation is to actually create a set, so to speak. So you kind of see what I'm doing with mine, for example. Got these blue lights. I've got a green tree. I've got my DSLR and my, it doesn't actually got my American flag. I have an American flag up here. You can see a couple things on my wall, but a static background is then the best one for sure. So just make sure that it's static is probably my best recommendation. And by static, it just means it's pre-set up. It's actually real. It's actually behind you. That's my recommendation. Robert says, you are in front of a green screen, right? No, I am not. The cool things with Zoom is that you don't have to have a green screen to have a virtual background. So you can just apply them. It's going to guess where your face is and then just apply the background behind you. I have a green screen downstairs, but I don't use it very much, especially for producing live content, that's for sure. But these are all good questions for sure. Cool. So the next big thing is now we know, kind of generally speaking, what content we want to create. So now we're going to make videos, or we're going to make memes, or we're going to start typing out blogs, or we're going to create a podcast, etc. Now we need to make sure that we're placing it in the best format possible. And I call this finding your thing, right? Because people are looking for experts online. So where are you going to be the expert, so to speak? And a good question for that is, what is your best piece of content right now? I say website content, but content on any social media platform will probably indicate very quickly what you're the expert in, right? And we need to be of service to a very specific audience, fulfilling a specific need within our area of expertise, passion, and knowledge, right? From there, we have to find our personal voice and unique perspective. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it out to the world in a personalized way, stepping out of the shadows of others in our niche. That is for sure. The one thing that will happen consistently for a lot of people here is we're going to fail at consistency. A lot of people will take this class, you get a little excited. It's like, let's do social media. We're going to kick some butt now. But then later on down the road, you kind of drop off. I always compare this to like a New Year's resolution, right? It's New Year's Eve and you're going to say, this year I'm going to work out. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to start reading a book a day, things of that nature. And then all of a sudden it's, March 31st and now you're not doing the same things you promised yourself in January. And that same principle applies greatly to what we're doing on social media. We have to be consistent. This is the biggest thing that separates the 1% from the 99%. And only the 1% really succeed on social media. And it's because they are actively consistent in it. Great content plus consistency is going to be the answer of how you build a following, how you succeed online. And everything else I'm doing is just enabling you to be more consistent or to create better content. But fundamentally, it's those two things that's going to equal success for you. You have to have great content. People have to want to not only just engage with it, but get so much value from it that they want to tell other people about it, right? And this has happened many times before. We've all tried on let's not use a clothing example because we all haven't tried on the same clothes. That'd be a little awkward if we did. But let's say that we had like the best experience at this let's say resort. Let's say that we all went, to the beach. It was a beach resort. It was in Bora Bora. We got our tan on. It was amazing. And it was just the best thing we could have ever asked for. Well, then, when people asked, how was vacation? You're like, oh, you have to go. It's the best place ever. We did this, we did that. We had the best time and you have to go too. And they're like, oh, well, I guess we're going to go, right? That's what we have to fundamentally do with our content. And that was kind of a more of an abstract example, but still the essence of what I'm saying here is definitely passing along. We have to have content that people actually not only want to engage with, but they want to tell other people about it. We're getting our content read and spread, so to speak. And then we're doing this consistently, which means that we're not going away. We're not a flash in the pan. And this is how we stick out in a sea of everything happening around us, is that we are the rock that's happening consistently. And this looks different for a lot of people. This could be every Monday I'm posting a Monday motivation, or every Tuesday I'm giving hot takes. Every Wednesday I'm applying my wisdom, and every Thursday I'm throwing it back, right? There's already some preset ones that are developed for a lot of people, but we have to have great content and then consistency. That's what we're going to do. And our content fundamentally has to boil down to our thing. And the other thing to note with that is that, well, I'll say it in the next slide, so we're okay. I got a quick question though before I press the next slide. How effective are memes? Short answer is very. They're very effective if done properly. And graphics versus text, it definitely depends, but graphics in general outperform text in general. But there's many times where your text will outperform a graphic. But in general, graphics outperform text, especially graphics with text on them, right? It just means you're getting much more visual experience. And the other thing to note is that graphics will stop people from scrolling, which is the ultimate point. If it's just text, I might continue to scroll, but if it's a graphic that's visually eye-catching and engaging, then I'm going to stop scrolling and engage with that piece of content. I got a quick question from the Q&A as well. Do we/our audience need to support or agree with what we're sharing, or can we gain engagement by posting controversial stuff? And that's a good question. I think the best thing to say here is, typically speaking, you want to share things that you agree with in general, unless you're playing devil's advocate, right? And there's a place for that for sure. But in general, we are sharing content that fundamentally fits our organization's goals, worldview, values, that type of stuff. If we don't do that, we run a large risk of alienating our audience, right? Let's play this rollout for a second. Let's say that I'm a Christian conservative organization, and I start sharing, things from, I don't even know where to go, but there's some bad bad examples of where I could rub my audience the wrong way really quickly. You know, I could, for example, let's say that there's an organization that's like promoting, and there's a lot of libertarians here, so I'm not trying to knock the libertarians, but an example of this is like, I'm the Christian conservative organization, and now like you're posting things where we want to legalize heroin and methamphetamine, right? Doesn't fit the values, doesn't fit the core structure. So that'd be an example of where we don't want to share that stuff on our page. So in general, everything we share has to align with our worldview, so to speak, our values, our core convictions, our principles, etc. Good question. And then Brian just says, what do you think of posting links to other people's articles, including political opposition with comments? Some of our people want to do that as a main thing we do on social media. Yeah, that's a great question. One thing that I would recommend, Brian, is that if you're doing this, you have to make it very clear that you're doing it to spark engagement, because you can post things that will ruffle people's feathers, but you don't want them to think that you're not on their team. So it's just a fine line. It's definitely possible, and it can definitely increases your engagement. But one of the bigger things here is that we need to make sure or make it explicit that, when we're sharing this, we want to, what are your thoughts on this, right? We're not taking a position on it, or we're actively against it, but this is a compelling argument. How would you refute these arguments, right? Let me play out an example as well. Let's say that we're a pro-life organization, and that's our thing. Let's say we're Students for Life, for example, or something like that. Well, one thing I could do to spur engagement is say, these are the best pro-choice arguments. Debunk them in the comments below, right? That's going to spur people to be excited about, to respond, to say like, oh, well, that's not the case for X, Y, and Z reason, etc. That's going to boost your engagement. But if I was a pro-life organization and I started throwing out just pro-choice arguments, then it wouldn't rub very well, correct? So we absolutely need to be careful about it, but it can definitely increase engagement for sure, if done correctly. And Mary says, maybe wait a minute and reread your post before actually posting. Yes, that's a great thing to note. One thing to note too, and this is the same thing that Mary just said, and I highly recommend, is that if you are typing something out online, before you post it, you should ask yourself that question: would I engage with this? And if the answer is no, then how can you expect anybody else to engage with it? That is for sure. Awesome. So let's say we're finding our thing. And I want to go back to the dog analogies because we use politics all the time and dogs are way cuter. So let's work through this dog analogy just real quickly. This is all as it comes to finding your thing, right? So we need to target an area/subject, right? We're picking on dogs right now, but it can't just be that I'm a dog person, right? The dog niche is obviously super broad and super diverse. There's dog training, there's dog food, dog treats, dog health, dog behavior. There's a ton to talk about in this niche. There's tons and tons of content that has been written and is still being written, which means that we need to niche down further. What else do we know a lot about and have experience in? Because remember, people are looking for experts online, which means that we need to go that next level down. And let's say that we pick dog food. Now we can apply our expertise. And before we knock dog food, it's $1 billion industry, so important thing to note. But now we can start to figure out where our place is on the World Wide Web. Maybe the solution now is a website dedicated to the testing and ranking dog food on the market. Or maybe the solution is a product or service for a specific dog, for labs, for poodles, bulldogs, and beagles, right? But that's it. That's a need you can fill for an ongoing problem that a niche market has an intense passion about. You have to niche down and dominate your niche by bringing your strengths, your experience, your passion, and what makes you unique to the table, and by doing so, shine like the star that you are. And I really point this out because I use dog food and dogs, but this applies here if I'm talking about conservatism, right? We can't all just be conservatives. We have to go on that next level down. So now maybe I'm a pro-life warrior, or I'm a fiscal hawk, or I'm a Second Amendment advocate, right? But now we start to find specific areas where we can really exist in our realm, so to speak. Now we can care about a lot of issues, but we have to be the go-to. We have to be the expert for the one niche that we're trying to accomplish it, right? So as we're doing that, we must look the part. Like in life, I wish, I don't know if I wish this wasn't the case, but it certainly is the case. But appearances are everything, especially online, which means your social media profiles have to look the part. My big recommendation is a professional profile that has a headshot. You can tag your organizations and projects, some way for people to contact you, and then put yourself with relevant hashtags where applicable. Again, depending on the social media site. I'm picking on Twitter now in this example, but we see two people who are journalists, for example, on the screen. You know that they're journalists within 0.5 seconds of looking at their profiles. You instantly know it. But then the rest of it speaks towards itself. It all looks the part, right? They have for example, Katie Pavlich has hashtag 2A, which means that she belongs to the Second Amendment community. And if you search that hashtag inside of Twitter now, her profile is going to pop up if you type in hashtag 2A. Conversely, we have Lawrence Jones at the bottom. We can tell, he's on the 5, which is clearly indicated in the cover photo. And now we know exactly what's going on. He works for Fox News Channel, etc. But things have to look the part. People should be ideally able to look at your profile on any social media site. We're picking on Twitter, but any social media site, and identify you as the expert or as the professional in the category that you exist in. Doing so means paying keen attention to the seemingly small details of your profile and social bias. But you know what they say is the small things that make a big difference. Most people, I think, let me pull back. But let me say, this is the best way to say it. One of the best recommendations I have for people is to have Google insurance along the way. What Google insurance means when people Google your name, what you want to pop up is going to pop up, right? We could pick out myself, for example. Let's go to Google really quickly and just type in my name. And of course, there's this guy. I don't know who this IMBD guy is, but he's really wrecking my SEO. He's not even as cool as me, but whatever. But now you see my Google insurance fundamentally is people look up my name, they see Leadership Institute. But most importantly, what I want them to find eventually, and I'm actually not on the first page, which is super sad. But I'm on Instagram and I'm on LI, and then I think it's on the next page. And if you've done this, and we see LinkedIn right now here, but we see my personal website, which is a little too far down, to be honest. But this is what I'm trying to fight for, and this takes time to build over time. And I just haven't been alive long enough as long as that 40-year-old who, he might have been 50 or 60, but he was on IMDb for some movie way too long ago. But now we've got this Google insurance. So when people are looking me up, now they can contact me, the press can reach out to me, people can learn about me, and that's really essential. And what I encourage for all of you is having that Google insurance. When people look up your name, which they will and have already, what are they going to find? And it can be your social media profiles, which, as you can tell, mine popped up pretty willingly. But you have to have that for yourself, and that's really essential for success. The other thing to note in the realm of content is that video is king. Many people tease teenagers that if something wasn't posted on social media, it never happened. But nowadays, that perception is absolutely true. The more you document what is relevant to your brand or your philosophy, the more connections that you're going to gain. And the more connections you have, the more relationships that you're going to build, fundamentally. Oh, and real quickly, Ollie says, so creative website. Yes, creative website. One of my bigger recommendations here too, just to pop it up again, is squarespace.com is the one I use, but I also love Wix.com, which is fantastic. Create a personal website, and then Weebly.com. You got them all right here. So Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly, all drag and drop template builders, no coding required, no need to know anything about website design. You just have to basically just copy and plug and play, so to speak. Highly recommend. And got a quick question. What are my thoughts on WordPress? I love WordPress. I ran a website that got millions of page views off of WordPress. WordPress is great. What I find for a lot of people, though, is it gives people more features than they need. So if you're going to write blogs or you're going to continuously post and update your website, then WordPress will be a great answer for you, for sure. I think a third of the internet's powered on WordPress or something of that nature. They've also got great templates. However, if you're just going to create like a static web page, basically like your portfolio or just like a contact form or just like a basic website, then I recommend Squarespace, Wix, or Weebly because it's just going to happen a lot faster. But WordPress is incredible, a great resource, and especially if you're posting content regularly, I highly recommend. So those are my general thoughts there, for sure. But coming back to video and how video is king, short form videos are best. Less than 2 minutes is preferable, and we want to front load and build curiosity where possible. Now, One thing to note here too, and this is speaking towards keeping it concise, is do we remember Martin Luther King's entire speech or the one line, I have a dream, right? The same thing applies to short video. We want to capture the important shots, images, and overlays and the emotion that is created at every single stage. But if you are getting started in the realm of activism, if you're getting started in the realm of social media, there's no better direction that I could push you in than creating video. And it doesn't happen naturally. It takes time to practice, but once you do, you're going to be great. And it is essential for success, that is for sure. On YouTube, we watch over 1 billion hours of video a day. That's more than Netflix and Facebook video combined, which is a fun fact. But on Facebook, there's more than 4 billion with a B, 4 billion video views that take place on Facebook every day. They count it a little weird in the sense that if you watch or if you scroll past a video for more than 3 seconds, then it counts as a video view. So I think YouTube is one of the better metrics to track. Like I said, on YouTube, it's 1 billion hours a day. On Facebook, there's more than 4 billion views a day. And then on Instagram, top Instagram influencers are posting 6 to 7 Instagram stories a day. So we have to put a lot of content out there, but video is one of the best places to really shine, really quick to go viral, and can look really good for you, especially if your brand intersects with the story of the day. I mean, it can really go super well for you, that is for sure. The other thing to note in the realm of content is to use influencers. Influencers are incredible, and we can transform our audience into the faces of our brand or organization by leveraging account takeovers and stories, things of that nature. My bigger recommendation in this realm is actually to create your own influencers. Now, when influencers are mentioned, the biggest thought in people's heads are like celebrities, like Kylie Jenner, things like that. But this isn't always the case. Many successful influencer strategies involve many small influencers. Typically, and this is the way we used to be back in the day, a consumer must see your brand or message 7 times before it's internalized. Well, this means that many friends of a consumer posting about something is often more impactful than one large influencer saying something just one time. And a good question to think about here is, who are the people with strong social media followings in your organization or that are your friends right now? And as we were talking about before in our strategy perspective, a direct message is a great place to start making these asks and start building a bench of influencers, so to speak. And if we can find an email, we can try that too. But we absolutely don't want to send mass emails or generic DMs when we're trying to find these people to be in our team. Again, that one quote I brought up earlier, I want to dig a well before we're thirsty. So we're going to start reaching out to these people ahead of time. And now we can, build this relationship up, and they're going to be much more likely to share our content and to spread it with the people, which is an awesome thing. And like I said earlier, that typically a consumer must see your brand or message 7 times before it's internalized. That's really important. One thing to note is, let's imagine that we're all on, maybe we're on Twitter, maybe we're on Facebook, but we're scrolling. We see like 3 of our friends talk about this event that's coming up. Well, you're going to start looking for this event, right? You're going to be like, what's going on here? We call this FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. That's what this effect creates. And I really encourage you to leverage influencers where possible. You should have, if you really are more in the campaign world of things, or if you're in more of the organization side of things, I really recommend having a rapid response team or having a social media list, so to speak, of people that are willing to share your content, willing to engage with your posts, etc. Basically, your heaviest supporters that are willing to go to bat for you. There should be a team of them. Call them something, give them a title, and get them involved. But now we're going to have people that can help spread a message, help make it go a little bit quicker. And hopefully over time, we're going to start to build relationships with even bigger influencers. One of the better things I did back in the day, way back in the day, is when I had my website that was reaching millions of people every single month, it was largely because of influencers. We had a couple of them. I'm not going to say most of their names. I'll say one of their names. But when they wanted to talk about something in the news, something was coming up, something was being discussed, they needed an article, right? And it doesn't matter because they're going to talk about it no matter what. So they could be sharing an article from Fox News, they could be sharing an article from CNN, etc. But we just said, how about we write the article for you? And they're like, great, yeah, you can write the article, and then they could comment on it, right? And now that's going to be our page views, right, that were associated with this influencer in a couple of different instances. So we did that quite a bit back in the day, and I'm a little ashamed to say this, the first one. I'll say two of them. Back in the day, one of my influencers was the former congressman from Illinois, Joe Walsh. Not my favorite person anymore, that's for sure, but an immensely large social media following, which is great. And you may like him. It's not for me. And then we had Tommy Loren for a while, who every time she was sharing articles, she would share it from our website, which was fantastic, right? And we're getting tons of traffic. So these influencers, these relationships are something you build over time for sure. And it can be such a win-win because they were going to talk about something anyways, but now let's just give them the article so they can just talk about it with our article associated in this instance. But it can be anything really. We can leverage influencers in so many different ways. There's so many creative, unique strategies, but it starts with getting their contact information, seeing if they're on your team first and foremost, and thinking win-win. So this is not just a win for you, this is a win for them as well. That is for sure. Next, let's talk about web traffic and getting more web traffic in general, because I don't want to sugarcoat this. It's going to take time. If you want overnight results, be prepared to spend a lot of money to promote your content to more people. It's that simple, right? If you're like most other organizations and businesses and companies and campaigns, you're going to have a limited marketing budget. So understand that this is about long-term results. And using one of the bigger things to note is the book that I referenced earlier. I said what it was called, but I didn't give credit to him. This is a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V, very popular influencer, very real on social media. He has a book dedicated to this premise about web traffic, and it's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And in essence, its message is simple and should form the basis of any good content marketing strategy. Give, 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 ask. If we follow this approach, and over time, we're going to build an engaged audience that's going to turn into advocates and teammates and members of our organization. And one thing to note here is that our content has to educate or entertain or inspire. We have to make people feel fundamentally. And unless we can spend earlier, like I said, it's going to take time. And the other thing to note is that all our content isn't going to be gold. There's going to be times where things aren't hitting the mark as much as we want them to. And we have to really just put on our innovation hat for a second and start figuring out, and I call it pivoting. We need to pivot towards something else. And a lot of people call it that. So it's not a new term by any means, but pivot towards a different goal. What's a good example of this? Well, let's say it this way. Innovation is not a bolt of lightning, but rather it's a bunch of small incremental changes over a period of time. And that's going to produce what we call innovation. You're going to be working your entire life towards something. When people see the success, and they won't see the long hours, but they'll see the success, they'll be like, how did you do it, right? You're an overnight success. It just took 3.5 years, right? Overnight success. But yeah, we're innovating. So if our content isn't getting likes on Facebook, or if our content isn't getting, retweets on Twitter, it's probably because our content isn't good enough. And that's what I'm saying here. It's not going to be gold instantly. This takes this takes time to build that connection with your audience, to figure out what's going to work for them and where you actually fit in the larger scheme of things in general. But you stick with it, and you're going to be one of the people that succeeds. That's for sure. Most people either want instant results or aren't prepared to put in the work, fundamentally speaking. In addition to all of that, one of my bigger things is that I recommend for people is to be biased. You should be biased online. Whatever you believe, just believe it. I'm not telling you what to believe, but just firmly and truly believe it. For example, there's a lot of people out there, and this is kind of just a joke, but there's a lot of people out there that have strong feelings about pineapple on pizza. Let me be the one that resolves this debate. Pineapple belongs on pizza. I know, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate the love and support, which is great. Now, some people don't agree with me. And if you don't agree that pineapple doesn't belong on pizza, then you are a terrorist that doesn't belong in this country, and we will kick you out. No, just kidding. JJ says pineapple should never be on pizza. See, there we go. And I got truth from Angel. See, there we go. Mark says, I'm not sure we can be friends now. I just lost Mary too. Oh no. But you, but you fundamentally, you guys see what just happened there though, even in the comment section here in the chat. we got engagement, right? That was a good thing. And that's so true about web traffic in general. So that's really essential. So whatever you believe, just be biased. And I made a strong statement there and I alienated half my audience because it really is 50-50 with that type of stuff. But it was all to make a point, which is that you should be biased online. And you're going to get that engagement as well on your tweets, on your Facebook posts, on your YouTube videos, etc. Good thing to know. Okay, so let's walk through some platforms and some very specific platform tips. And there's no better place to start than Facebook, and we'll kind of work our way down for the ones that people use the most. And I think someone asked a question about Twitter earlier, so we'll definitely get to Twitter next. But let's talk about Facebook first. First and foremost, we're using Facebook groups. I can't nail this on the head anymore. If we're going to play on Facebook, we have to play inside Facebook groups. It's the best place that we can exist. It's the highest level of engagements, and we can create our own watering hole and community. So I'm not going to say any more because I've talked about it a lot, but hopefully you're like, okay, fine, I will try a Facebook group. And yes, please do it. The next big thing on Facebook, clean and concise. There's certainly a place for long form content on Facebook. You know, those paragraphs and paragraphs. Sometimes they work. 99% of the time they won't. So generally speaking, the best way to be is clean and concise on Facebook, short and to the point. Next is there has to be a plea for interaction. Now, a plea for interaction can be either direct or indirectly, right? A direct plea for interaction might be, you know, I'm sharing my thoughts on pineapple on pizza. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, right? That's a direct plea for interaction. But there's also indirect pleas for interaction, which work just as well. For example, what if I say, I stand for Israel? If you do too, and it's a good picture of Israel and all that good stuff, well, then you're going to like it. You're going to comment amen, or you're going to share it, right? Because you also stand for Israel, right? In that example. So the plea for interaction can be direct or indirect, but your post fundamentally, if you're trying to produce engagement on Facebook, has to have some semblance of a plea for interaction. Next is timing and frequency. I have a graph on the screen of Facebook sharing by day. It follows what you would expect in the sense that the best time to post content on Facebook is earlier in the morning, Eastern time. So posting before 6 a.m. is a good thing, that's for sure. And then posting in the afternoon is a good thing. Now, I will say, I understand, and this is important to note too, that Facebook works as a relevance algorithm in the sense that Facebook's going to share the most relevant content to the person. And let's point it on a Likert scale, for example. Let's say it's 0 to 10, a Likert scale, 0 to 10, which basically means that if I share something on Facebook, and if it's a 10, it's going to pop up in your newsfeed at the top instantly. These are going to be posts from your family members. This is going to be when like someone gets married or a big life event happens in general. And then a 0 is never going to appear in your timeline. So that person posted it, relevant score was 0. It's never going to pop up in their intended audience's timeline. Now, roughly speaking, when we are posting, it's going to be assigned a relevant score. So it's already going to be assumed that it's going to make the timeline or it's not going to make the timeline. So let's acknowledge that that's the case first and foremost. And now, assuming that you have a high relevance score with your audience members, the best place to appear in the timeline is in the morning, simply because in the morning is when most people are going to be doing their scrolling, which means they're going to start consuming Facebook, right? And that means Facebook's going to give them the highest relevance score and then go down from there, which means that we have a better opportunity to reach people in the morning. And then Robert just says, how is a relevance score determined? Well, the exact science behind it, I do not have, but I have some a general gist of it, roughly speaking. So let's bring back that Likert scale, 0 to 10, right? Someone posted something. Let's say that it was a 7 out of 10, or a 6 out of 10, right? Some things that would make your post a 7, 8, or 9 out of 10 versus it being like a 6 or 5. First and foremost is that the content type matches your preferred audience's consumption. So Facebook always wants to keep you on Facebook. That's the goal of the algorithm. So if you are consuming cat videos on Facebook, then Facebook is going to show you more cat videos, right? So if your audience was that, then I would start sharing cat videos. I'm going to appear in their timeline much more frequently. If people like to click on articles or people like memes, then Facebook's going to show more articles or more memes. And Facebook's doing that in the background to see which ones you like most and what type of content you engage with. So first and foremost, the content type is one of the biggest indicators of a relevance score, right? And I said this earlier, that video is king, right? Fundamentally, one of the best ways to increase your relevance score is to post videos. Videos are much more likely to be engaged with. And on Facebook, another important thing to note as it relates to videos is that you should absolutely caption your videos, because most people are not watching video with the sound on, right? Especially on Facebook, because they're in class or they're in a meeting or they're at work, right? Or they're, scrolling while their significant other's talking to them. So captioning your videos is a really positive thing. And just real quickly, I want to give you a resource too, not to, just so I don't just tell you to caption your videos and not give you a way to do that. One of the recommendations I do, I use this personally, is rev.com, R-E-V. And now we can add captions to our videos, in kind of like, as you can see, captions for your videos, right? And it's $125 per minute. But like I said, it's worth it, especially with your really important video content, because most people will not watch your video with the sound on. So caption your video so people can still engage with it while they're in class or while they're in the movie or while they're talking to their significant other or in that meeting, etc. The other things that really affect your relevance score is timing, like I said earlier. So Facebook's trying to feed people relevant content. And like I said here, the Facebook sharing by hour is the highest in the morning when people are setting their day, right? When the news cycle is being set in stone for the day, so to speak. You want to just be pre-news cycle. It's also going to help affect your relevance score just a little bit. And then the other thing that helps affect a relevance score, the last thing here that I think is really important to know, is how much lift your piece of content when you post it gets out of the gate. So if Facebook senses that something is viral, so to speak, like a bunch of people are interacting with it, a bunch of people are commenting and sharing, well, then Facebook's going to say, oh, this is really valuable stuff. And if I share this in other places, people will be on Facebook for longer. And so if your content is getting really good reviews, essentially really good ratings out of the gate, in the sense that people are engaging with it quickly when you post it, then Facebook's going to be much more inclined to share it with more people, therefore increasing the relevance score. So those are 3 quick things on how you can improve your relevance score. First and foremost is your content type. Preferably video is going to be a quick increase. The next big thing is time of the day. Earlier is better, which just gives Facebook more time to place it in more places. And the third thing is the level of viralness, so to speak. How many people are interacting with it? And if a lot of people are interacting with it out of the gates, then more people, Facebook's going to be more inclined to share it with other individuals. So those are 3 quick things. There's probably a million other things that affect relevance score, but hopefully those 3 are a good start of things we can work on. Josiah says, I believe it also checks how often the viewer engages with your content. If they engage with you more, it tells the algorithm that they have more interest in your content and show your content more often to them. That is correct. Yes, that is absolutely correct. It's the same principle on a good way to think about it too, for those of us who use like Instagram, for example. Probably happens on Facebook. Actually, it does happen on Facebook too. So, and this is more of an argument, this is more of a situation for, I guess, younger singles, but all of us can kind of get the essence of it, married or not, is that, and it could be your significant other, honestly, because they'll be the most relevant for you. But if you're checking out, let's say you have a crush online, so to speak, there's someone cute, you're checking out their profile, click on every picture in their profile, well, then Facebook's going to say, wow, you really like this person. And now the next time they post, that's going to be the first thing that shows up in your timeline or on your Instagram story, right? The people that show first are the people that you engage with the most, is roughly speaking how you say it. So everything Josiah said is absolutely correct. And yeah, 100%. And then lastly here on Facebook, and I'll talk about Facebook advertising next, but don't be bored. That's the biggest thing. We are competing with cat videos out there, and some of us are trying to share, the latest economic numbers in a very non-compelling way. If you post a GDP graph, get out of here, right? It's not going to be as good as or as compelling as this cat video that I'm trying to watch, right? And that's what your audience members are going to say. And so how can we format, reshape, or alter this information to be as compelling as possible on social media is the question. And there's many ways to do it, but fundamentally, ask yourself that question. Is this boring? If this is boring, how do we make it not boring? You can still share the information. We're not diluting anything, but we're delivering it in a way that works best for our audience members. That is for sure. Okay, so next, I just want to briefly touch Facebook advertising. This is not a Facebook advertising class, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But for the people that really want to like level up their game, so to speak, in the realm of Facebook and Facebook advertising, there's two cheapest ways to advertise, the two cheapest, most effective ways to advertise. The first one is a lookalike audience, and the second one is a Facebook pixel. And you can Google these to find more information about them, but I'll just describe them from, again, a high level, and then we can kind of like move past it. But first and foremost is a lookalike audience. Like I say here, what you're doing essentially is you're uploading an email list to Facebook. You basically upload that list to Facebook and say, hey, Facebook, these are my people. This is my email list, you know, etc. I want you to find people like this. And you can choose a degree of variation, like 1%, 2%, all the way to, I think, 10%. 1% is the best, though. And then Facebook's going to use its smartness, its algorithm, so to speak, to find people that fit the mold of the email list that you uploaded. So some things that are going on in the background. Yes, Facebook probably has your email and all the emails that are on your email list. It's just the way Facebook is these days. But what we're doing is we're using Facebook's smartness to find people that we wouldn't normally expect to be a part of our audience, or people that wouldn't actually fit maybe our search parameters. Facebook's using so much more information at its disposal to identify who else would, you know, engage with our advertisement or be sympathetic to our cause, etc. Lookalike audiences are one of the cheapest ways to advertise on Facebook, point blank, 100%. And we should use them. Next one is a Facebook pixel. The Facebook pixel, basically what that is it's a small snippet of code that's on your website. And from there, Facebook's able to track the traffic that's coming to your website or going from your website to Facebook, which basically allows us, and this has happened all the time, right? Where you're on Amazon and you look up something, maybe it's like a new pair of headphones or something like that. And then you go back to Facebook and now there's advertisements on the side that say like, hey, you know, check out these headphones, right? Even now, even more these days, retargeting gets real creepy because, you know, you can talk into your phone sometimes and then the advertisement's going to pop up, just the way the world works these days. But we're allowed to use that though. If we have a Facebook pixel installed on our website, now if people have come to our website, we can retarget those individuals and say, you know, here's 10% off, or, you know, sign up for our email list or anything of that nature, right? So those are the two cheapest ways to advertise on Facebook. If you want to advertise on Facebook, I recommend just going to YouTube, looking up lookalike audience, looking up Facebook pixel before you start advertising, because these are going to lower your cost tremendously. I used a lookalike audience last week and my cost per click was like, it was like 27 cents or something of that nature. Very inexpensive. And I've seen cost per clicks as low as 3 cents before. I've also seen cost per clicks as high as $5 before. It just depends on what you're trying to do. But this is the cheapest way to do it, that's for sure. Okay, let me answer some questions really quickly. Robert just says, where can you buy email lists with demographics? Okay, first and foremost, I recommend not buying email lists in general. We should not. We should build our email list. So instead of buying an email list, we should advertise on Facebook to build an email list and then use that email list to then create a lookalike audience. But if we're going to use the email route, my general recommendation is we want to use either what we call list rentals or revenue shares. So it's list rentals and rev shares. What a list rental basically allows you to do is basically you're writing the email and then they're sharing it from their email, right? Most people who buy email lists, you're going to get a bunch of bad emails, so to speak, and it's going to lower the authority of your domain, is what we call in the email world. And it's not going to be a good thing. So in general, we should almost never buy email lists. The only examples that I can find that would be okay is like working with like a third-party vendor service like i360 or Nation Builder or something like that. Even then, I'm a little wary. So I would say in general, we're not buying email lists. We're going to either build our email list and then use it for our Facebook lookalike audiences, or we're going to use a list rental, which basically means like they will send the email, but you get to write the email and give it to them. And then pay for that exchange, so to speak, or use a revenue share, which basically means the same situation as the first one, except for now you split the revenue. Typically, it's used in online fundraising efforts. But in general, I would never buy an email list. Patrick just says, can Facebook traffic your post in a certain county or zip code? Yes. Yes, it can. Absolutely. Absolutely, it can. Yeah, and you can set some parameters too. So you can say, I only want to talk to people that are between the ages of, or only show this advertisement to people between the ages of 18 and 65 in, Indiana. And then you can literally create those parameters. And you can do that with the lookalike audience as well. So you can upload the lookalike audience, find people with the 1% to 5% variation here within this specific area. And you're going to start finding some real winners. So the answer is yes. And I encourage you to work at those settings, Patrick, because it's really valuable once you start nailing it for sure. And then Tara just says, and hold on one second. Tara just said, in Canada last year, some conservative candidates tried advertising on Facebook, but couldn't get any of their ads approved. Even though it was introducing the candidate in the area, they wouldn't approve ads, but didn't provide reason. Is there a way we can find out why they declined the ads? So when Facebook does decline the ads, they will generally cite the reason that they did it. Even though they do cite the reason, it still can be vague and don't give you like a full answer. The biggest reasons I see ads declined, first and foremost, though, is they don't follow the 20% rule. The 20% rule is, as you can see on the screen from the advertisement from Digital Marketer, only 20% of the text on the image. So you see that our average adult receives 147 emails per day on the text per image. That can only take up 20% of the image itself, which is important to note. So let me grab my annotation tool. Okay, so like this right here only takes up less than 20% of, and it actually is only this right here, only takes up 20% of the image. If it does more than that, your ad is automatically going to be declined. So you have to follow that 20% rule first and foremost. Only 20% of the text on the image can exist. If it's more than that, you'll be declined. The other big thing, and this is in America more, so this could be a little different in Canada, but I'm pretty sure this applies in Canada as well, is that you have to apply to be authorized to deploy political advertisements. I'm pretty sure that's the case in Canada right now as well. So that's an important thing to note too, that you have to have political authorization to create those advertisements. So those are two reasons why it could be declined, but without there being a specific reason, it's really hard to pinpoint exactly what went wrong with the advertisement. But those are two of the small things that might make a big difference overall. But yeah, if you want to add more context, feel free, and we can continue to talk about it for sure. But those are two of the real big bugaboos. So I've got 4 rules for good advertisements. They're visually engaging, they're audience focused, they have value, and a clear call to action. Visually engaging because we have to stop the person from scrolling, right? Audience focused, meaning that it's going to the right people. Has value, which is going to give them the incentive to click in the first place. And of course, that it has a clear call to action. People know what to do. People know how to take action. That is for sure. Awesome. And then let's focus on this. What makes content shareable? How do we get people to share our content? And I've kind of hinted at this in a couple ways. And I wrote biased here, so we all know the pineapple on pizza argument now. But first and foremost, we have to inspire a core emotion. And let's look at this GIF. It's just the cutest little GIF. Oh my goodness. Makes me so happy every time. But yeah, that's exactly it. We have to inspire emotion from our audience. We have to make people feel. So as we're typing or creating our content, we have to be very purposeful about the feeling that we want to elicit from our audience member. We want them to feel happy, angry, mad, or sad. Whatever it is, we are very intentional about that. The next big thing is that it has unexpected and or useful information. So unexpected information, which is like breaking news, right? Or useful information. Think about a YouTube video when you can't figure out how to do something, and then all of a sudden you watch the YouTube video and it's like, oh, that's how you do that, right? That's exactly what makes content extremely shareable. That is for sure. It also speaks to the listicles of the world, right? 7 reasons why millennials love avocado toast, right? Definitely going to be an unexpected piece of information for sure. And I said biased already, so I'll move on to the next one, but this is really important, is that it fits a narrative. And this is really essential for success in a lot of ways. And you'll find that this is the moment where you go viral online, is when your brand, your nexus, what you're talking about, meets what the news and the story of the day really is. It fits that narrative. I always refer back to the movie 8 Mile. with Eminem, and in there he's a song called "Lose Yourself," and in the song he says you only have one moment. Are you going to capture it or just let it slip? Mom spaghetti. But there's going to be times like that in your career where you're going to have a moment, right? And you have to be ready to take that moment and take it as far as you can go with it. That is for sure. And we all have particular, playing cards in our hands, so to speak. Some of us are female, some of us are black, some of us are Asian, some of us are, tall or short or whatever, right? There's going to be times where you can lean on this stuff to really, amplify your voice. And that's going to be a really positive thing overall. But also your organization is going to fit that threshold. Quick story about that. I've got a couple of good examples of that, honestly. But one that I like citing recently is actually one of my friends. Her name's Simone Gold. She is a doctor and a lawyer at the same time. Doctor, lawyer, pretty smart person, that's for sure. She was in California. And, of course, at the beginning of this year, the lockdowns began and people were questioning and politicizing the drug hydroxychloroquine, right? And again, she's a medical doctor who works in an ER and also a lawyer, which is pretty crazy to be both at the same time, but also a big advocate of hydroxychloroquine. And now, she was on the steps of the Supreme Court. We all probably saw this article of, the doctors that are saying hydroxychloroquine can be safe for the treatment of coronavirus and COVID-19, but with consultation with the doctor. And now she has, 50,000 followers on Twitter. Her articles were essential and movement building at the time, and also likely saved lives for people that may have used that in consultation with their doctor. But that was a moment where that nexus happened. That was her moment, and she took it and she ran with it. Now, like I said, that's going to be a moment for all of us. Whatever our issue is or whatever we're passionate about, our expertise, let's make sure that we don't miss that moment, because we got to capture it, or we're just going to let it slip. Okay, so I'm going to move on to YouTube in just 1 second. We're going to pause here for our final break. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to push forward through the final hour of this training. Again, I'm going to stick here. If there's any questions in the chat at this point, feel free to keep asking questions. But we're going to take a break. I'm not going to start talking about YouTube until 3:05 p.m. So use the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, do whatever you need to do. Maybe just hang out here with me for a second. Yeah, quick break time. I'm going to use this break to have a Marco Rubio moment and sip this water just a little bit. Wyatt said, great flick, so true. Yeah, I mean, it is. One moment. Luckily, there's more than one moment in real life, but it really summarizes exactly the feeling of wow, yes. Also, another big political lesson to learn from 8 Mile is the last rap battle. And again, I don't expect most people to have watched this movie, to be honest, but in the end, he basically airs out his dirty laundry, so then the other person doesn't have anything to insult him with. That's what a lot of politicians do. If you ever want to run for office and you've done bad things in the past, just write a book. And then you can always refer to the book. Oh, I've talked about these issues extensively in my book. You can go buy it on Amazon, and then you're going to be really good. Oh, I got a good question. I think Zach asked this question earlier too, and I really apologize. How's the rescheduling of the HTML and CSS class coming? It's going really well. I was able to get Replit back up and running, which is really exciting, and we're pushing it to next week, and that email announcement is coming tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. Good question, though. Yeah, that was pretty crazy last week. I was talking to my employee yesterday, or last week at the time now, saying that's never happened before, and that was pretty strange. But yeah, next week. All right, we'll get started again in 2 minutes. Andrew says, do you have a website? Yes, I do. My website is digitalrow.com. And again, this is just a static website pretty much. It just says, who I am, what I do, and connect with me. And I will say, and this is really important thing to note, is that I've got this press tab up here. When I hit the press tab, you see my highlight reel, like when I was on Fox News and all that good stuff. Quick bio and all that good stuff. But then I've got this contact form. I've had many producers, most recently One American News Network, reach out to me and say, like, do you want to be on national television? It's because I have this press tab and I have a just the news, but having a website open is just basically having it's like having fishing, the line is there and then you're going to catch some fish every now and then. So I couldn't recommend a website more. Yeah, mine's digitalrow.com. Feel free to copy the styles. I use Squarespace. The other cool thing that I say down here is that this website is fully operational thanks to the virtues of capitalism, the most prosperous economic system the world has ever seen. But yeah, that's my website. Okay. Okay, this is the short break right now. Josiah says, if you upload a list of donor emails, addresses, name, city, does Facebook do a good job of finding similar people with lookalike audience? Is it really accurate? It's really accurate. It's really accurate. So yes, it does a great job. Really, all you need to do too, I've done some tests before, and I put in more information on the columns. So usually I just do first name, last name, email, and that's good. You're good there. There's some other additional things. You could do the city and zip code I've done before. Those help a little bit, but not that much. And in my experience, it took a lot of time to fill that out fully. First name, last name, email worked great. Nicola said, great webinar. My father, Aldo, it's good to see you. Good training so far. Thank you. You broke up a bit. Not sure why. Oh yeah, sorry about that. And then Angel says, would you recommend a full domain name, or would that be too expensive? No, I recommend the full domain name for sure. For example, let's go to GoDaddy.com. And let's say that I'm looking for my name. Again, we saw what happened there. I'm looking for StephenRowe.com. Oh, I can get it for $3,000. Let's go. But of course, pretty expensive. But now I can see some other options here. So I could put my middle initial here. It could be StephenGrowe.com and probably pretty cheap. But StephenRowe.online is 99 cents for the first year, and then it's $50 a year after that. This one is $18 a year for StephenDrowe.com. SteveRowe.me is only $20 a year. So this is pretty affordable stuff. But the one thing to note, and I did this with my name as well, as you saw, is my website's called DigitalRowe.com. And this is what I recommend for people, like if your name is Bob Smith, like there's going to be a BobSmith.com already, right? And so then just apply your expertise to your name and you're going to find a URL that works for you. I do digital. Like I said, my handle is robots because I'm in tech. Now it's digitalrow.com. Now you really start to see how this really emphasizes my brand, right? I'm the go-to person for training conservatives online, and everything's working towards that. So if you ever have any trouble with the URL or domain, that's my recommendation as well. But I definitely recommend a full domain name. You don't want to be .squarespace.com or anything of that nature. You want the full domain. And when you have that domain, one additional opportunity you have that is worth noting is you can have that custom email. It can be going through Gmail, but now you can be like, email me at ceo@digitalrow.com, and that's going to be a really professional email. And for those of us that are in the small business world, that makes an incredible level of professionalism instantly, that your business card has like you're at your own email address, basically. It goes really well versus you being like this at gmail.com. Okay, it's 3:07. I'm going to get going one more time. Let me just take one more sip of water and we will take us through to 4 p.m. Perfect. All right, so YouTube. We'll go through this one real quickly because most people aren't using YouTube for activism, but it's here because I want more people to use YouTube for activism. Please, please, please. So one of the best things about YouTube is that it's the second let me try talking again. That water got me. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. Number one is Google, and number two is YouTube. So first of all, if you have a problem, you're going to Google the problem. And if Google's not doing a great job, you'll probably go to YouTube and watch someone try and solve the problem via video, right? And that's typically how it works out. So YouTube is an immensely large database, so necessary that we exist on it. So much activism can be done on it, that is for sure. But when we're using YouTube, first and foremost, thumbnails are everything. people aren't going to watch your video unless they click on your thumbnail. So the other big thing too is we want to focus on good SEO. What I mean by that is we need to reverse engineer how people would get to our question. How reverse engineer what question people would be asking. So let's imagine that I'm making a YouTube video on, let's use my headphones again. What are the best headphones in 2020? Well, then now I want to start naming my YouTube stuff along those lines. It could be literally the best headphones in 2020, right? The top 5 best headphones in 2020. And that's going to start helping people find your videos. So just every time you're creating a title for your video or you're creating the captions, remember that the whole point of it is to make it as search friendly as possible. And that's focusing on video SEO. Other big thing is consistent uploading schedule, that we are uploading consistently. People watch YouTube like television, and so absolutely need to have consistency there. If you need to ask for likes and subscriptions. If you don't ask, you won't get. So in the video, say, smash that like button, hit subscribe. Really good stuff, and people will take action on that. If you don't remind them, then they're just going to watch the video, get the information, and leave. But if you say, hey, do me a really big favor, helps out the YouTube algorithm. If you like this video, so more people can get this content. Likes are free, and then they can like the video. They'll be happy to do it, but they need to be reminded. People need to be reminded, right? You need to give them that call to action. And then don't overthink the equipment. This goes for the realm of video in general. If you have anything better than iPhone 6, you have the ability to create YouTube videos right now. You don't need any fancy equipment to do it. The most important thing is you just get started, that you actually just practice, and you will get better at it, I promise you. One of my big recommendations for people is a 30-day challenge. So every day for 30 days, for example, let's say you want to start making video content, you make a video every day for 30 days. Day 1 is going to go super well. Day 2 is going to go even better. Day 3 is actually going to go worse because you tried something new, but by day 4, you're back on the track to success. And by day 30, you're going to have hyper condensed the learning process, and you don't have to share these videos, but you just have the practice of making them, right? And now by day 30, like I said, you're going to be in a really good spot. And now if you ever get called up by Fox News, if you ever get asked to give a report on the street by some local reporter, you're going to be ready to go. Or someone asks you on a podcast, you're going to be ready to speak. You're going to know what to do. You got to get that practice in. Practice while no one's watching, and you're going to perform like no one else. That is for sure. Okay, so Carol just said, let me look at the chat really quickly. Carol said, isn't the email expensive on the full domain? It's not that expensive. I will say that generally speaking, I think it's like $40 a year, roughly speaking, accounting for taxes and everything like that. But you can have a domain and a email associated with that domain for probably about $40 to $60 a year, roughly speaking. Again, you can shortcut this by using like Squarespace, Wix, or Weebly, which makes it super easy to set up that email, and it's going to also be very cheap doing it through them. And again, it's going to be yourname@yourwebsite.com. So it's a little more expensive, but it's not very expensive. Yeah. Tara says domain names are cheap. Go to namecheap.com. Okay, that's probably a great resource. And namespro.ca is $13 a year. Carol says, I film our speakers. Generally, these are 20+ minutes. Should I also do a highlight reel and post that on Facebook and then link to the full video on YouTube video description, in the description? Yeah, that sounds fantastic. 100%. I mean, your mind is in the right place with what you want to do there. Let's pull out the good moments, and then let's create promotional content, essentially, that we can push towards the actual video. And one thing I'd actually recommend in that strategy, Carol, that may boost it to the next level is actually if you can put all the YouTube videos on your website, because then when it's on your website, people can look for everything in one place. Your YouTube channel will be great, but again, if they're on your website, now you can start to acquire their email address and things of that nature as well, which might work out pretty well. But it depends on ultimately what you're doing, but your mind is in the absolute right place. You're doing it right. Josiah says, is it okay to test out multiple titles, thumbnails for a single video? Or does that hurt your SEO? Yeah, if you upload the same video and just title it differently, that's going to hurt your SEO. Well, it's going to hurt your channel, technically. But yeah, the only way we can really test is by trial and error on YouTube specifically. but it is important to note what's working and what's not. That is for sure. But yeah, if you can't post the same video on YouTube and title it something different and kind of get try and give people two ways to reach the same video, YouTube sees through that and it'll knock you for it, for sure. Angel said, just search Namescheap super cheap. Oh, namescheap.com. All right. That's new to me too. That's a great recommendation. Thank you, Tara. Awesome. And Brian says, do you recommend a particular video editor? Yes, I do, big time. So if you want to take it to the next level, I actually think it's next week. Let me check really quickly. So we'll do a little self-promotion here in just a minute if it's happening next week. I think it is too. But if you are using video editing for politics, my biggest recommendation, it is next week, is we'll teach you how to use it too, is Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is by far the gold standard for video editing inside of politics, especially working on a team and collaborating, right? That's the best. You can purchase or download a free trial. All the information is there. And most importantly, all our trainings for the month of October are free, thanks to the generous and dependable support of LI donors. So next week I think it's Wednesday, is video editing for politics. Couldn't recommend it more, that is for sure. So that's the #1 video editor I recommend, is Adobe Premiere. If you're using your phone, I really recommend one called InShot. And let me type that in the chat really quickly. InShot. There's going to be a watermark in the bottom right-hand corner when you produce the videos on your phone, but it costs like $3 to remove the watermark forever. Pay that. It's going to make your videos look so much more professional. You don't want that watermark, that's for sure. So yeah, Adobe Premiere on a computer, InShot on a cell phone is my recommendation in general. There's some other great software out there, but those are my recommendations. Okay, Angel said, thank you, Tara. Tara said, you are welcome. Okay, oh, great. Some collaboration in the chat. That's awesome. Carol says, I'm using Corel product, Video Studio Pro. It's not expensive. Yeah, so I've seen the Corel Video Studio before. It works great. Yeah, it definitely works great. It's much more for the lone video editor, though. It's not for someone who works on teams or collaborates with people. But if you are the video person, it's great. If you're going to be able to make all the cuts, all the edits that you need, it's going to edit it properly. It's a great piece of software. And the other big thing that really makes Corel stick out for me too, and the other people that do this really well, is called Final Cut and Final Cut Pro, is that they have a one-time payment. So you pay one time and you have the product. With Adobe Premiere, it's a continuous payment, so you have to pay every month. But it's like, I think it's like $20 a month as a subscription service. It's like $50 a month for the full Adobe Creative Cloud. I find Adobe to be the best in general, but Corel is great. It's absolutely great and works well. Yes. Cool. Well, let's move on. Let's keep going because we don't have much time and I want to make the most of it with us, team. The Gartner Hype Cycle. So this is how most news stories transpire every single day, roughly speaking. You kind of see how it happens here. We see the news trigger, the peak to scrape reporting, backlash, think pieces, and back to start. And we don't have to go much further than, let's actually pick on Twitter, for example. Let me just peek at Twitter for a minute. I'm trying to think of what happened today, if there's anything that happened today. Because I already used the debate example, so I want to use a different one. So I'm going to use the trending tab of Twitter right now. Let's pull it up real quickly. You have Nikki, Minecraft, Halloween, Reds, Braves, Chrissy, Rhodes Scholar, Subway. Okay, let's pick on I don't know if I want to pick any of these, to be honest with you. Well, let's pick on this one. Here, this is political. Okay, so it looks like pundits are flying after the White House mistakenly referred to Amy Coney Barrett as a Rhodes Scholar. Oh, because she graduated from Rhodes College. They called her a Rhodes Scholar. Oh, okay. Well, and oh, this one's pretty funny. Technically, anyone who passes a driving test is a Rhodes Scholar. So, hey, look at all of us, right? But okay, so here's the thing that happened. Okay, the White House mispronounced something and people are very angry. So now we're at the news trigger. Something happened, right? And now we're at the peak of scraped reporting. So after the news trigger, now people are moving towards the peak of scraped reporting. What that basically means is that everyone knows about it. You know, everyone knows. A good example of this is like, you know, someone shares on their Facebook profile that, you know, did you know that Amy Coney Barrett became Supreme Court Justice, right? Just got nominated. And you're like, yes, of course, that happened many days ago. What are you talking about? That's the peak of script reporting. Basically, everyone who cares about the issue knows about it. Then there's backlash. There's almost always backlash. Somebody overreacts, somebody says something dumb, usually on Twitter. And from there, the other big part of the story and the hype cycle is think pieces. A good way to think of think pieces is like those op-eds, you know, Real Clear Politics, things of that nature. And then we just go back to the start, right? And so some important things to note about this hype cycle. The best place to be to get the most lift of your story is the news trigger. That's why most news agencies fight tooth and nail to produce the content first, right? Because they're going to get the most traction on their story. This is also the case for us, though. The closer we are to what's happening, the more chances we have of going viral. But we still have some opportunities here. Catching people on the backlash, right? People overreacting or people reacting in general. And then, of course, we've got the think pieces where we can examine the morality of the things that transpired or the implications moving forward, all of that type of stuff. And then we finally go back to the start. And so the important thing to note here, like I said, the news trigger, an incredible place to be for the most oomph on a story. But we always have to realize that we have to go back to the start. There's always going to be a new story. There's always going to be new things trending. And we need to roll with the punches, so to speak. And that's going to happen a lot throughout the news cycle every single day. Don't have to go much further than the trending tab of Twitter to find that stuff. So let's talk about Instagram, and then let's get to Twitter. So first and foremost, Instagram. Instagram's amazing. It's personally my favorite social media site. I love it a lot, which is great. But how you can be more successful as an activist on it. First and foremost is finding your hashtags. What I mean by that is, and let me pull up Instagram really quickly. Hold on one second. Okay. So I'm on my Instagram, and I use the hashtag USA. And there's 106 million posts with the hashtag USA. Now, if you notice here, there's always going to be a section called top posts. This happens for every hashtag on Instagram. It'll show the top 9 posts, and this will change every single day. So this is where the eyeballs are on Instagram. And so now what I want you to do is leave your valuable comments and shares next to the side. So this person did really well and popped up in the tops, and you can see by the comments happening right there. But let's go ahead and let's type a different hashtag in. Let's type in hashtag conservative. We see 3 million posts, and now we see the top 9 posts that are happening here. We see something from Thomas Sowell. How are children supposed to learn to act like adults when so much of what they see on television shows is adults acting like children? That's pretty funny and pretty great. And you can see them using their hashtags as well. The other important thing to note is you can use up to 20 hashtags on Twitter. I mean, on Instagram, excuse me. You can use up to 20 hashtags on Instagram. Use them. Every single one of these hashtags puts this image, this conversation basically, into another area where it can be discovered, right? And so you have up to 20 of these. Don't be afraid to use them. That is for sure. But now what I'm encouraging you all to do is to comment on these top posts. So in the top hashtag conservative, the top post of the day is this one. And let's look at this person. Totally agree. I know the president is frustrated because he will never get a fair shake of the media and he needs to call out the lies. He needs to take peace lessons from VP Pence. The Democrats will hang themselves given enough rope. 174 likes. That is a lot. That is for sure. And this next one has 93 likes, 48 likes, 25 likes. My encouragement for all of you, if you want to grow on Instagram, you want more followers coming to you on Instagram, is to leave valuable comments on the top hashtags. And I'm talking about the hashtags that relate to you. That's why I'm saying find your hashtags, and you're going to find followers, and you're going to find success. That is for sure. And don't be afraid to use them in the posts as you post on Instagram. Okay, so Patrick said, would anyone on this webinar be willing to share their Facebook and YouTube sites as examples? Feel free to post those if you want to. And Robert says, is there a list of hashtags? So there is not a clear-cut, here are the list of hashtags. But, you know, one thing I would do really quickly is like, you know, like top hashtags on Instagram. And we see quite a few of them. We see love, Insta good, fashion. You know, just do a quick little bit of research that way. But there's no like comprehensive list. I couldn't give you one because it changed really fast. But that's what I'm saying. We have to find our hashtags. So, hashtag conservative, hashtag USA, right? In my instance, maybe hashtag Black conservative, like that type of stuff would work really well. And Carol says, we should also use the hashtags on our Facebook posts. Oh, we should, or should we? So my rule of thumb is this, on Facebook, only one hashtag, maybe. I generally recommend not using hashtags on Facebook unless it's like a movement type of situation. An example would be like Melania Trump's Be Best, right, campaign. Well, then I'd post the hashtag Be Best. But it doesn't make it incredibly much more searchable. Most people aren't searching for hashtags on Facebook. And so my recommendation in general is no hashtags on Facebook, maybe one if it's like that movement type of thing, right? Or it's a campaign hashtag, that type of thing. On Twitter, I say 1 to 3 hashtags, usually just one, 1 to 2. Anytime you're going more than 2 hashtags on Twitter, it actually negatively affects your tweet in most instances. So 1 to 2 hashtags on Twitter, and on Instagram, be belligerent with your hashtags, right? You want to use up to 20, use all of them, use all of the space. So 0 to 1 on Facebook, 1 to 3 on Twitter, and always use as many as possible on Instagram. Is my rule of thumb for hashtags on those 3 social media sites, but those tend to be the big hashtag websites. Okay, and then Angel says it changes time to time and with content. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The hashtags do. And Melody just says, how about hashtags on LinkedIn? That is a great question. And hashtags on LinkedIn do work. LinkedIn does use hashtags, but I will find that, again, it's kind of similar to Facebook in the sense that most people who are using and engaging with LinkedIn typically aren't searching for content through the hashtags, right? When you're on LinkedIn, how often do you type in a hashtag and start looking for that conversation? Maybe a little bit, right? Especially if you're a recruiter. But in the majority of instances, most people aren't engaging with hashtags on LinkedIn. So I would put it in the same category as Facebook, except for I'd be much more likely to use a hashtag on LinkedIn before I use it on Facebook. So maybe we'll say 0 to 1 on Facebook, 1 question mark on LinkedIn, 1 to 3 on Twitter, up to 20 on Instagram. Good question though. LinkedIn one is a really good question, but LinkedIn does use and apply hashtags. So yes, yeah, you can use them to your advantage for sure. Also on Instagram, just real quickly, using your stories, Instagram TV, really good stuff to do in general. Don't be a monster. Here's what a monster does. They take a photo on their phone and they just upload it directly to Instagram, right? We are not gonna do that anymore, fam. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna lightly edit and filter our content, which means that, upping the saturation, maybe like adding some contrast, maybe a Gaussian blur. Oh, now we're shining. But make yourself look good. Now, you can over filter your content, right? We know what that looks like. Make it feel natural for sure. And it's going to be a trained eye. You're going to have your specialty and your particular settings that work best for you. But do the extra work to just like make your photo look better before you actually post it. Edit and filter your content. Fatima's just said, Afterlight and Lightroom are great for photo editing. Yes, they are if you want to take it to that professional level. And that's a very professional level, and I certainly encourage it. That's amazing. But even just in Instagram, in the app itself, you can edit it. And even in your phone editor on your phone, you can start to edit it. But just start to alter your photos a little bit to make yourself look good. I just want you to look as good as possible. And then the last thing I'll say on Instagram really quickly before we move on to Twitter is one thing that makes it super valuable for an activist is when you have 10,000 followers on Instagram. When you have 10,000 followers on Instagram, people can swipe up on your story and then go to wherever you're telling them to go to. You can type in any URL and people can swipe up and go to that URL. That only becomes available once you have 10,000 followers on Instagram. So typically speaking from an activist perspective, there's still plenty to do on Instagram, but you become extraordinarily more valuable when you can start driving traffic. And that becomes available to you at 10,000 followers. Awesome. Let's talk about Twitter. If anybody's ever called you funny before or witty before, well, then Twitter may be the platform for you. And that type of stuff is worth its weight in gold on Twitter, that is for sure. And I've got the best framework for Twitter that I have for you is we are going to make and then we are going to take. We are going to make a statement and take a stand. Make a statement take a stand, right? And this is happening right here with our president. I've never seen a thin person drinking Diet Coke. That is making a statement and taking a stand by a long shot, that's for sure. But the other good thing that we're going to do on Twitter is piggyback popularity. And let's walk through that just real quickly. Let me pop up my Twitter and we'll kind of move through that. So again, quick disclaimer, this is a live Twitter feed. I don't know what's going to pop up, so we'll probably be fine. But I always like just to say that just in case. So we're on my Twitter, and what we're going to do, and I like to use the president in most of my trainings because he's just one of the more popular people on Twitter, is let's go ahead and look at his last tweet. And this is what I mean by piggybacking popularity. We're going to go where the people are. And this is also what I was talking about. Oh, this was the shadow ban question from earlier. I forgot who asked that, but this is a great way to really fight through it as much as possible. Okay, so we have someone saying thank you. Okay, cool. What's an endorsement? Let's go to this one. 1 hour ago, why would I allow the debate commission to change the rules for the second and third debates when I easily won last time? Okay, good. So you killed it. You're a street fighter, 97 likes. 188 likes. You shouldn't and you wouldn't, 188 likes. Don't allow it, 647 likes, 600 likes, 500 likes. Okay, we're seeing this. I don't have to keep saying these out loud, but we're seeing how powerful this is. And we see someone for, we saw a bunch of people for, and we also see the against, right? Here's a person who's against. So people can hear something other than you ranting like a lunatic about Hunter, 2.7 thousand likes on it. So this is what we're going to be doing. We are going to be finding our influencers, so to speak, online, the followers, the people that our audience members also follow, and we're going to participate in these conversations. This is one of the quickest ways to grow your following on Twitter. Most people make the mistake of like going to the homepage and then just tweeting and posting and then nobody ever comments, right? That's what we're doing. That's what we're not doing. We are instead going where the people are. So let's imagine there's somebody I don't like. I'm going to pick at random. Let's imagine just for a second, hypothetically speaking, I'm a 501c3. Hypothetically speaking, I don't like AOC. Okay. And so now what we can do is what we're going to be doing now is we are going to, let's just go to this one. This was a pinned tweet. Hey, you matter, you count. And we're going to see some people right here. I'm a Republican running against Rashida Tlaib. 128 likes, Godspeed. 19 likes. We see one for 18 likes. And AOC is less popular than the president, of course. So we're going to see a little bit lower on the engagement. But we see where the engagement is. And so if we're trying to grow on Twitter, again, my recommendation, yes, hypothetically, my recommendation is to pick someone you like and pick someone you don't like, and then comment when they tweet. Now, I understand that when you pick someone you don't like and you comment on their tweet, that you're going to spur a lot of engagement, and it could be negative engagement in the sense that people are like, how could you, or how dare you think that, all that crazy stuff. Ignore the haters in general, that is for sure. But you're going to get more traction if you start doing this stuff, that is for sure. That's another big thing. And the other cool opportunity we have on Twitter is utilizing lists to our ability. So for example, I have the Joe Biden campaign. And so now I can use this Twitter list to see exactly what the Joe Biden campaign is saying every single day. Or I can go to the list and I can pick the Trump campaign. Oops, I clicked myself. Here we go, Trump team. So I can see what the Trump campaign is saying every single day. And now I can get a good sense of what's going on and all that important stuff. So really good stuff to note as a whole. Carrie followed me. I'm going to follow you back, Carrie. Thanks for following me, Carrie. I appreciate that. Follow back. There we go. You asked a good question earlier. Okay, cool. Great. So that's piggybacking popularity. There we go. And the next thing I have here is a 1-to-1 ratio for graphics. Basically, this means we're using a square box, essentially 1-to-1, 800 by 800 pixels, 1000 by 1000 pixels. That's a 1-to-1 ratio. Like I said earlier, I always recommend being platform specific as possible. So we're posting stuff specifically for Instagram, specifically for Twitter or Facebook, etc. But if we have to place it everywhere, the best format is 1-to-1. That square graphic is going to be the best one to reach the most amount of people in the best way. But again, on Instagram, we're actually probably better off with a 3-4. On Twitter, we're better using a Twitter card. But again, just universally speaking, 1-to-1 is the best ratio for graphics. Okay, let me continue on. Before I do, let me just check the chat. Ali said, God bless the Honorable President Trump. Grace says, hi, Stephen. Unfortunately came late, but I'll be in charge of social media campaigning for a new conservative organization. are you able to share today's PowerPoint with us? Yes, absolutely. I'm going to share both the recording so you can follow up, catch up, so to speak, and then you're also going to get a PDF of all my slides. So yes, happy to help. Hopefully it is helpful. And then Carrie says, thanks for the follow. Yes, of course. I'll follow everybody back too if you follow me during this course, but this opportunity is only available right now. If it happens after this course ends, and you follow me on Twitter, then I may or may not follow you back. I still very well may. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, cool. Well, the next thing that we're going to talk about is making your content search friendly. And this is just to really reemphasize what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about hashtags quite a bit, so I'm not going to hit it too much here again, but fundamentally, just to hear it again, when you use hashtags, you're increasing reach and engagement on your social media content, right? Hashtags are one of the most powerful organic social media strategies. Using up to 2 hashtags within your tweets can double your engagement sometimes. However, like I said earlier, if you use more than 2 hashtags on Twitter specifically, it actually decreases engagement on average. So you maximize your hashtag use on Twitter at 1 to 2. On Instagram, we can use up to 30 hashtags. On Facebook and LinkedIn, we're going to use 1 hashtag, maybe, right? That's my general rule of thumb for social media in general. But also we want to follow these trends and look for the keywords and search terms that people are using, right? We're going to use the language of the platform to our advantage wherever possible. Awesome. And then we're going to talk about LinkedIn just really quickly. For those of us that are using LinkedIn, LinkedIn's incredible, and it starts with blog posts. Sharing your blog posts or articles on LinkedIn is a great way to increase your reach, build brand awareness, and spark engagement. Every time you post a new blog post too, you can also input it on your LinkedIn profile to share with your followers. So if you're trying to get more reach on LinkedIn, blog posts are the answer, that is for sure. And the other thing to note is that this is really especially prevalent in LinkedIn. We're the Leadership Institute. I certainly encourage you to be a leader wherever possible. And on LinkedIn, you can start looking like a leader in your industry and not a follower by doing this. Making predictions. Literally, just make the predictions. Like, who's going to win next month on November 3rd and why? And if you on LinkedIn write a well thought out article on why Joe Biden or why President Trump is going to win on November 3rd, people are going to support you, contest you. But no matter what, you're going to look like a leader because you have this authoritative place, right? And hard to believe as this breaks all social media rules, typically speaking, but people really like to read long form content on LinkedIn. And so those long articles and high quality content works extraordinarily well on LinkedIn and captures people's attentions and inspires them to share it with their peers, especially if it's backed by data or hard evidence and things of that nature. The other thing to note here is that I say comments make content. That's true because you can strike up some great conversations that lead to, there's a fire truck passing by me right now, excuse that. But you can strike up some great conversations that lead to post ideas. By putting yourself out there and just having a conversation with your audience, they can pose questions and make comments, which you can then use to create relevant content closely tied to their interest, questions, and needs, of course. And those industry insights are absolutely great things that you can post. Awesome. We're going to move past LinkedIn because most people aren't trying to be active on LinkedIn too much. But again, LinkedIn is a great place to exist in general, especially for work purposes. But let's come back to it for just a second. Before I do, Ann just says, for someone who is new to this, what is the main objective of Twitter? To change minds? What can we do to get the vote out for our candidates? That's a great question, Ann. The one thing that I will note here that's really important, I don't think I closed Twitter. Let me pop it back up. Hold on one second. Okay. The biggest thing to note here, actually, let's go back to the president's tweet, is not necessarily when you are writing and reacting on Twitter, especially in these comments as I described earlier, the main objective should be to write for the people that aren't writing. So what we find on social media in general is that there's 1% of people that create the content, there's 10% of people that generally share this content, and then there's 90% of people that just consume the content. And so when we're writing tweets on Twitter, or when we're talking about things and etc., what we need to be very cognizant of is we're writing for the person looking from the window, so to speak. They're not going to comment. They're just going to be the silent scrollers. And that could be a lot of us in this room right now, honestly. You might be one of those silent scrollers on social media. But what you read will absolutely influence what you think, whether that's both positive to reinforce or provide talking points or to like, just like I said, reinforce your worldview, or it could be unexpected or useful information, right? You're like, wow, I didn't know that. That kind of changes my beliefs. Or also, which is rare, I will say, but also most of the time it's awareness. Like most people don't even know about their political candidate. And us sharing this stuff and why we're supporting these people really will start to move people across the line in a lot of different ways. For example, and I will say this, all of us in this class right now, if you're taking a Leadership Institute class, you likely have a black belt in politics, right? In the sense that, we'll watch Cobra Kai recently, so I'm using karate references, but we all kind of have a good idea how the political system works in our country or how politics works in general, all that good stuff. Now, the average person does not have the level of knowledge that you do in politics. And maybe they have their opinion formed on who they want to vote for president, but they certainly don't know who their congressperson is, or they don't know who their local dog catcher is, right, so to speak. They don't know who their city council person is. And so when we start advertising this stuff on social media, most of the time we're bringing this person's name to the forefront for the first time in a lot of people's eyes. If you share in your Facebook, this is why I support this councilman or this councilwoman, well, most of the time people aren't thinking about that type of stuff in the first place, and they saw you talk about it, so now they're going to be excited, and they're probably going to jump on board and say, well, I trust this person, so let's roll, let's continue like kind of moving forward in that direction. So I would say that's mostly the main objective of Twitter. First and foremost is it's really great for reaching out to journalists, reaching out to people to get your stories covered, to comment on the news. But one of the better places it exists for activism purposes is for the people on the sidelines that are scrolling silently. And their decisions, their ideas, their opinions are being formed as they scroll that social media platform. And when we fill that gap with the conservative message, it's going to be a positive thing. Because, this is the same thing I tell a lot of college students a lot too, is we absolutely know that liberal professors and administrators are not sharing a conservative message inside their classrooms. And if they won't, then we will. It's literally up to us for our philosophy to exist in a lot of people's minds. Most people don't have that black belt. Most people don't understand what it's going to take to really succeed, or what it's going to take to know more about their candidate, etc. So it's really important, that's for sure. Really important. But next, fundamentals of building an audience, just to kind of wrap, circle back to what we're talking about on this slide, is first and foremost is we are applying consistency, right? We are taking consistent action. Remember that formula, and everything I've said up until this point is just reinforcing that formula. We're making your content better, and now we're going to apply the consistency. Great content plus consistency equals success online. So that's what we're going to be doing. Intrigue, but don't mislead. This kind of speaks to the clickbait of the world, which means that we want to be tantalizing. We want to be using good words, and we want to, clickbaity a little bit, so to speak. But what we don't want to do is lie to people. One of the hardest things to build with strangers online over time is trust. But one of the easiest things to lose with strangers online almost instantly is trust. And so be intriguing, but don't mislead or don't lie to people. The other big thing here, and again, we hit this on the head a lot, so I'm not going to do a ton here again, but as we can tell, the more we our audience member, the more effective we can be in our activism, the more effective we can be online. Knowing your audience is everything. And then we want to talk to people, as many people as possible, lots of people. We need to have those engagement. We need to have those conversations. And if people are on the fence or people asking legitimate questions, don't be afraid to interact with these individuals and give them answers, right? But there is a fine line between, a question and, a provocation or like a argument, so to speak. And in general, my recommendation is to not get into arguments online. I feel like they just waste a lot of time sometimes. But what I do recommend is responding to people. So I typically say 1 response is a clarification, 2 is an argument, and really don't get into arguments online unless you want to. there's some people out there, and this could be you as well, where you see the slam dunk opportunity in the sense that, someone tossed up a softball that you can knock out of the park and you're like, you were wrong for these reasons and get wrecked, that type of stuff. Now, some of us have that personality type, and live your life. But in general, my philosophy, my rule of thumb is to not get into arguments online. We really want to persuade people that are persuadable. And I've seen arguments get into like the 500th comment, and at comment 587, do you really think you're going to change anyone's mind? Probably not. Probably not. So let's go ahead and push towards a different solution where we can enlighten other people or have that conversation elsewhere. That is for sure. The next big thing is I really encourage you all to be storytellers. And we need more of these people on our side. We need more conservatives to tell their stories. I couldn't recommend this more. It naturally creates a narrative. It keeps the audience engaged. It uses anecdotes as my recommendation, and it ultimately shows that you understand. Now, the typical example I give here is one of school choice. So I can give you two sides here. The first side that I can give you is the typical conservative answer that school choice outperforms public and private schools. School choice, private schools and homeschooling outperforms public and charter schools. Those who attend homeschooling and private schools will graduate from college at a higher percentage. And in addition to that, those who go to a bad public education system, statistically speaking, will be subject to the same cycle of poverty that those of their parents, etc. Okay, those are all true statements, right? That school choice allows for, a better future or a better outcome, or at least the potential of one, right? Here's what we can do instead, though. Like I said, those things really hit home for the logical mind, where it's like, yes, you're right, these statistics are correct. But we're not always trying to reach the logical minds, and that's where stories come into play. So instead of all those facts, which are true, how about I just tell you the story of Sarah? Sarah is the woman on the screen right now. Sarah has just ran away from school. Luckily, this bridge is about a block away from her school, but nevertheless has run away from her school for the second time this week. Sarah's running away because she's getting bullied verbally from her fellow students. She's talked to her teachers, but her teachers can't do much about it because it's verbal bullying, right? And they're not in the same room when it's happening. She's pleaded with their parents, crying to her parents, saying, please let me go to a different school. But her parents can't afford to send her to a different school. And so Sarah, for the second time this week, has to get up off this bridge, go face those bullies in an area where she's not going to be able to learn in the place that she deserves. But let me tell you what I want for Sarah. I want Sarah's zip code to not determine her destiny. I think that Sarah should be able to go to a different school where she won't get bullied and be able to become the strong woman that she deserves to be in this world. That's the power of school choice, right? And that's also really, really valuable. So that's the quick story. I usually tell that story a little better, honestly. Okay, maybe a couple heartstrings were tugged. Of course, this is a stock photo. Sarah does not exist. But you see the argument for school choice being much more emotional in the second way I said this versus the statistical way I said it the first time. So my recommendation to all of you is to tell stories, right? Especially to emphasize your policy points. Why are you school choice? Why are you pro-life, right? Why are you pro-Second Amendment? Why are you conservative, right? Tell the story of why that's the case, and you're going to convince a lot of people, or people are going to empathize with you a lot more. That is for sure. And there's absolutely no way that you got to this class or gotten to this point in life without some sort of trial and tribulation. So please tell your story. We need more storytellers on our side of politics. That is for sure. Robert just says, I like evidence and facts. Can they not be woven into a story narrative? They absolutely can be. Yeah, absolutely. People tell stories in different ways. But my biggest argument here is that we tell the story. So please, yeah, tell a story and weave in the evidence and facts, but do it in a way that is a compelling story. And I think you're going to change a lot more minds, especially those that are on the fence. That is for sure. So here's an example of stories that are on social media. Again, I told you a story verbally through video right now, but here's some stories that are being told with just words and a picture, right? This is a charity. It's called Charity Water. What they do is they provide free water and clean water to people in Africa. And it's a powerful, compelling image, right? People have fresh water to drink, which is a pretty positive thing, which is really great. but you can see the story in the images. So the reason I highlight this is just to the fact that not all stories are spoken. You can tell stories through pictures. And again, my question for you all is, what stories can you tell? We should create content, not just cater to our audience, but also to the lifestyle they aspire to live or the world that they want to live in, right? It's about how good you are at connecting with people. And people online especially need to virtually, quote unquote, meet you and feel like they know you, right? And know the people that are part of your organization or campaign or anything really, and know that their issues are being addressed. And we can do that online, and that's some of the more compelling content that we can post on social media. Again, let's pull it back to a campaign example for a second. Let's say that, let me pick one real quick. I had one in my mind, and I just had a mind fart or a mind lapse. I don't know if mind fart's the right word, but that's what it feels like. So yeah, okay, let's do a campaign example. Let's say that you were knocking on a door, or somebody in your campaign was knocking on a door. Your candidate was knocking on a door, and their homeowner was waving an American flag in the sense that like there was just a flag up there. Candidate knocks on the door, says, "Hey, I just want to thank you for waving the American flag in this example. It means a lot to me. That's why I decided to run for office in the first place," and all this good stuff. So the candidate's naturally being a candidate telling the story in the first place. But how we can translate this online now is we can share, important facts about why this flag is so important and why it's so important to the campaign and so important to you, and why you do so much specific things for that person and things of that nature. So I was kind of an off-the-cuff example. Kind of makes sense. Could have done it better, but we certainly understand how powerful stories can be. Awesome. And then, of course, we fundamentally understand what a good message looks like. And this is my fancy rule for a good message. M equals EC cubed. It looks a lot like Albert Einstein's formula. I'm not going to call myself Albert Einstein. I'm just not going to do that. But a good message looks like emotion, contrast, connection, and credibility. In terms of emotion, how should people feel now that they've heard your message? Contrast, how is this different, right? Or what should life look like, an alternative to what it's looking like now? Connection, answering that question of so what? Why does this matter to me? And of course, credibility, why you? Why you the messenger? Why are you telling me this right now? And a good message incorporates all of these components, right? Definitely a good thing to add. Emotion, contrast, connection, and credibility. Awesome. And then lastly, I just want to finish this workshop with giving you all some tools and creative resources, some sources that I use on the World Wide Web, and things of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and just click through them. Again, you're going to get a copy of my slides, and I have these kind of laid out for you, like photo sources, video sources, and audio sources, etc. I'm just going to walk through them in my web browser really quickly. The ones that I really like to use, and let me go this way. Okay, cool. So the first one that I like to use, if I'm looking for images, and if you guys have any questions on tools or resources, I'm happy to start applying them now. And also, if you have any final questions, we're about to wrap up-ish. I mean, we'll push a little past forward, but not much. If you have any questions about tools or I'm trying to do this, let me know right now. But I'm just going to walk through these right now. First and foremost is Adobe Stock. This is what I use for all my photos. So if I'm looking for like a photo of Washington, D.C., for example, well, now I've got these really cool, iconic, beautiful images that I can use for all of my graphics. And the cool thing about Adobe Stock is you get the license and then you can use it across the board, which is fantastic. It's by far one of the better ones that I've seen out there, but it costs money. This one costs about $30 a month. So let's say I'm balling on a budget, Steven. What if I want to do this for free? Well, then I recommend Pixabay.com. Pixabay.com, we'll just type in the same thing, Washington, D.C. And as you can see at the top, it's stunning, free images, royalty-free, which is fantastic. And now we can see some really cool options. So we see this a beautiful DC-esque picture as well, and all those cool options. Except for that, these are all free now. So free images, paid images, Adobe Stock, Pixabay. The next one that I use a lot, and this is called Storyblocks or Video Blocks, and this one is great. So what I like about this is it has a bunch of what I call B-roll. So if you're ever looking to put overlays on a video or things of that nature, they've got a great amount of stock footage. Let me just type in Washington, D.C. just to keep it standard across the board. Well, now we have these cool video time lapses and images and things of that nature of like cool resources we can use for our video projects and things of that nature. Really good stuff, that is for sure. But if I'm using that for video, that's a great website. But let's say that I want to go free. Okay, so what we can do from YouTube is we can always download videos from YouTube for free. Whether it's legal or not is a question mark, and a question mark that is up for your lawyer. And again, I'm not offering legal advice, but let's say that I'm on YouTube and I typed in, I want to grab the highlights from the first presidential debate, right? Well, I've got this one, it says the highlights. What I can do is I can just copy this link, and on YouTube, Google, I just typed in YouTube to MP4. I've used these two, they've worked out really well, clickconverter.cc, YouTube mp3.cc, we'll just pick the first one. So I can paste this link in here, make this an MP4 and click convert. Oh, it didn't like that one, hold on a sec. Oop. Try that one more time. Oh, it doesn't like this one. Let's go to click converter. That's why there's multiple websites. It will not be stopped. And there's just a couple pop-ups on this one, which is why I don't like it as much, but it works just fine. You come back here, and yep, here it is. So now I can download this as a 720 video and download it right here and be good to go. So we can download virtually any YouTube video that way, YouTube to MP4, which is pretty great, pretty cool resource. The next one is called Fiverr, fiverr.com. So if you want people to do work for you, essentially for very cheap, you can absolutely use this, and it's amazing. So for example, let's say that I'm making a YouTube channel, and I want a YouTube intro. Well, I can do that. I could type in YouTube intro, and so this person's going to make a quality YouTube intro for $20, which is pretty great. And these prices, it's called Fiverr because typically things cost like $5. It's pretty cheap. But now let's just click on the $20 one because we're going to buy this once, and it's going to be a professional YouTube forever. So now we can like have all of these cool graphics, all these cool motion graphics, which is pretty cool. So now we have our YouTube video ready to go. But let's say that, maybe I need to, make logo transparent because I don't know how to use Adobe Photoshop. Well, we can do this too, and they're going to do it for $5. Or, there's a whole bunch of other things here. We got digital marketing, graphics and design, video and animation, music and audio. There's people that will do pretty much everything for you for the right price. And if you're looking for a cheap solution, Fiverr may be the solution for you. All right, the next one that I use a lot is Epidemic Sound. So if I'm using for audio, if I need good audio, for example, let's say that I just pick podcast and I've got a podcast intro and outro that I need. Well, I can start to look through this one and find the answer for me. So maybe let's click this one. Ooh, I don't know if I like Rhythm of the River. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast show. We're doing it now. Okay. That was embarrassing. I apologize for that. Okay, but yeah, as you can tell, there's plenty of awesome sounds and sound effects that we can find. This one costs $15 a month, but it's phenomenal. You have access to the full site. You get unlimited videos. Unlimited soundtracks, everything like that. Great resource, especially for YouTube, especially for anytime you need some sound effects or anytime you need some background music in general. And background music always makes things much more epic, so it's never a bad thing at all. Awesome. The next thing is Image Flip. Image Flip allows you to make memes. So we can go ahead and make a meme with imageflip.com. So let's go to Distracted Boyfriend. We've all seen this meme template before. Let's just zoom in real quick. And let's go to actually, which one is this one? Okay. Freedom, America. Actually, let's go Trump, Biden. Okay, so now we already have a pretty good meme that's ready to go here. Let's just generate this meme really quickly. Great, we've got it. So let me just save this really quickly. Meme for social. And one thing that we can do, again, this is depends on your ethics. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to type in. So what it came with was that watermark right here. It says image flip. And you can remove this image flip watermark by paying them $3 for one time, and I think it'll be removed forever. One thing you can do also with Paint, Microsoft Paint, or any other basic editor is I can just go ahead and just crop it out, and now it's good to go. Now we're good. The watermark is gone, and we're ready to share this meme on the social media platform of our choice. Now they have a whole bunch of meme templates here. There's just an incredible amount. Let me kind of come back real quick. Come back. You know, the 2 buttons guy, change my mind guy. I mean, all those memes you see everywhere. I mean, quite a bit, that is for sure. The same website that does something similar is makeameme.org. All your basic memes will be here. There's so many formats. I mean, all the memes you could ever imagine exist here. Feel free to use them at your leisure whenever you want to. But if you're looking for memes, you know, this is it. You know, when she says she is voting for Biden. Let's make the meme. And now he says when she says she's voting for Biden, again, we can just crop this or you know, healing brush that out or pay for the watermark to be removed. But now we've got some awesome meme content that's ready to be posted in the World Wide Web. Just real quickly, we're just going to work through a couple more. The next one's Giphy. If we're looking for awesome GIFs, all the GIFs I've used in my presentation today have been from Giphy, and these are fantastic to use in general. GIFs are very compelling, especially on Twitter, and Giphy is automatically synced with Instagram, Twitter, iMessage, and WhatsApp, I believe, a couple other places, and Giphy's in Snapchat too. But Giphy is pretty much the central place for GIFs. And you can upload and create them too, totally at your disposal. Really cool opportunity you have there. The next one is called Canva, canva.com, canva.com. It's fantastic. There's really no excuse that you don't have compelling content on social media in general if you know about Canva, that is for sure. There's a whole bunch of options here. See, one of them that I really like too is like animated social media. So this is all editable, and look how this is definitely going to stop someone from scrolling, right? This one says it's time to party. What if we just switch this to now? It's time to vote. All right. Now we got some good content. We can download this, share it with the world. Hopefully this is beneficial to you as well, but that's the power of Canva. And they have so many templates, Facebook cover photos, Instagram stories, you know, infographics and YouTube thumbnails, even Facebook advertisements. So if you're looking for basically things that you would do in like Adobe Photoshop or just like customizations and things of that nature, Canva will not let you down. It is a great resource for you. Awesome. And then hold on one second. I'm just going to, whoa. I haven't seen myself in a while. When I shared my presentation, I couldn't see my face, so pretty wild. But one thing I want to do for all of you really quickly, before we wrap up for the day, first of all, let me look at the chat. I haven't looked at the chat in like 3 minutes or something like that. But I just wanted to say really quickly, before I answer any final questions, I wanted to say, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you. I think I shared the right screen. If I did, yeah, I believe I did. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you for attending. I hope that this social media course has been really valuable for all of you. I'm about to look at the chat, but one thing I want to say before, because I want to respect people's time as well, for those of us who have to leave right now, is once you leave this Zoom meeting, it's going to push you to a Google Form survey of what you thought of this course. As a personal favor to me, please, please, please fill out that Google Form survey. Tell me what you thought. Tell me what you liked. Tell me what I could emphasize more or what I missed. But the only way this training gets better over time is because of your feedback. And it does keep getting better and better. And it's because of all the people that have left feedback before. So like you are sitting in the footsteps of giants, you are now the giants who are going to lead footsteps for others. So really appreciate your feedback there. So let me look at the chat and see kind of where we're at. Okay, so here we go. Anne says, on a personal side, Feel free not to answer. I have a son that identifies as a person of color that believes Trump is a racist, in part due to his hedging the question in the debate about white supremacy. Do I have a response? Yeah, my response is for them to look at all the times he's denounced white supremacy, which is an important thing to note. I can't get too political right now because I'm working, and this is a 501c3, but I will say that there is a large amount of evidence for both, and you'll believe what you believe ultimately. I think that's important to note, but there's a lot of evidence that says that Trump is not a racist. You know, some things to cite is maybe the Platinum Plan that just got released, historic funding for HBCU buildings. You know, it's very weird that a racist banned the KKK. I mean, that seems like a very non-racist move to go. You know, there's a lot there for sure. I could go on. Again, I don't want to get too political here, but the big thing is always go to the source. You know, I always recommend that for people. I always think that people need to look at things for themselves, and a lot of people will scroll Facebook, they'll scroll Twitter, they'll scroll Instagram, and not actually go to the source. When people said somebody said something, you have to actually see what they say. You can't actually just read the article about what they said. It's certainly lazy to do that, and that's my bigger recommendation is if you want people to really, I guess, fully understand the circumstances, they have to fully understand the context. That is for sure. And I brought this up earlier, and this is the last thing I'll say on this, but like I said, in 2016, Chris Wallace was a debate moderator and asked Trump to denounce white supremacy, and he did. And even you could argue in 2020, you know, people say he sidestepped it, but he said, sure. I mean, that seems like a yes to me. I mean, it's just pretty ridiculous ultimately, but people will believe what they believe. And then I'd also cite that, do you think Joe Biden is not like a racist? I mean, wasn't he the same person that said like, I don't want my kids to go to the same school as black children and be like in a racist jungle? The super predators comment, the 1994 crime bill. I mean, come on. I mean, I'm picking apples at some point at a particular instance for sure. But you know, yeah, I can't answer too much more on that, so I'm gonna keep going. Okay, Y2 mate works great. Further's response, Stephen, give the eruption on social media. What are your general thoughts on the debates? Okay, again, I will say that the debates were a wash. That's my ultimate analysis. I think that you will believe what you believe and no one's minds were changed last night. That is for sure, or 2 nights ago now. Random question, do I know Matea Murta? Yes, I do. She's fantastic. She's taken a couple of social media trainings before. Thank you, awesome course, great class. Great. I want to advertise on conservative jobs as a recruiter for a social media person, but won't let me log in. Can you reset my profile? Okay, Patrick, I actually don't have control of conservativejobs.com. I really recommend reaching out to kmix@leadershipinstitute.org. I just typed it in the chat now, but just type in kmix and then you can get the rest of it. Okay, but I actually don't have access to that, or I would help you out. Okay, Eric said, Trump answered the question 4 years ago. Yeah, I said that too. That was great. Thank you for your response. Yeah. Watch Joe Biden during Clarence Thomas hearings. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, cool. All right, well, it looks like we're caught up. Looks like we're in a great place. I'm gonna stop it right here for all of us. Let me hit the stop on the recording button right